50, it feels like. Who are the stars? Giannis once out of Milwaukee. Luka's up and down. They're fifth right now in the West. SGA plays in a market that nobody watches outside of the state of Oklahoma and Texas. So I think there's a lot that factor into that.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no doubt that the games mean more in college basketball. You know, I mean, there's teams right now that, I mean, like TCU and Oklahoma State are playing on Saturday. They both need to win. And if whoever loses that game is really up against it in terms of trying to make the tournament, the team that wins, it's like you just got to keep winning if you're in that, you know, middle tier, that area where you're trying to win games to get into the tournament. So I think, yeah, like every game matters. The players play into that. There's an intensity and a desperation that they have that I think, you know, is easy to feed off of. I mean, college crowds are always going to be different, right? Like the college environment is different than the pro environment. That's the same with college football and the NFL. But it's not just like, you know, it's not like this is true every year. I think there's a combination of the college game is really good this year because they've got a bunch of these studs that are playing across the country. And then on top of that, you got a lot of NBA teams that are tanking. Like there are a lot of games that are just bad. The product is bad because those tanking teams are trying to get to the top of this draft to draft one of those. So it's I think it is a combination of, you know, some of the factors that usually go into it every year when it comes to college basketball, but also just the perfect storm of like a great freshman class and a bunch of NBA teams trying to get there.
Right. Totally agree. It's the perfect storm. It's a culmination of things that have resulted in tanking on a level we've never seen.
And I think you're right, too. I mean, because we talked about this at the trade deadline. There's now basically 10 teams that are actively trying to lose games to get to the top of the draft. That's more so than we've ever seen. And then I think you touched on it, too. Like, there's no dominant team in the NBA.
Right.
And, you know, it's wide open. And that's okay, I think, for a year or two. But, like, just historically in the history of the NBA, they've needed dominant teams. And, you know, maybe Oklahoma City is that. But it's in a market not unlike LA. Now we've seen the Spurs have runs where they win, you know, multiple consecutive championships. But ultimately, I mean, I think the league needs a villain, and the league doesn't have a villain. And so, despite that, with all the teams tanking, it's just a combination of those types of things.
Like the best players in the league in terms of points per game right now, Luka leads the league in scoring, but LA's fifth in the West. SGA at Oklahoma City is second. Anthony Edwards in Minnesota. Jaylen Brown in Boston. Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland. Tyrese Maxey is the sixth leading scorer in the NBA. Like, it's not Kawhi and LeBron and Steph and Giannis. And I just think the NBA's in this kind of weird era of waiting to see who the next star in a major market is going to be.
Well, and a consistent winner. You know, I mean, there's been just one-off championship teams over the last few years, and, you know, like Golden State won multiple championships, then added Durant, they were a villain. I mean, the Lakers have historically been a villain unless you're a Lakers fan, you know. So again, like, the league has had dominant forces. They've had, you know, teams that win multiple championships and are competing, and that drives an audience more so than the parity that's happening right now in the league.
Yeah, the last 7 NBA champions, the last 7 seasons. How many NBA champs do you think there have been in the last 7 years?
7?
7.
Yeah,
There's
Oklahoma
been a different
City,
team every year.
Boston, Denver.
Look at you.
That's about as far
Those
as
are the last 3.
Yeah.
Golden State, Milwaukee, Lakers, Raptors.
Yeah.
You know, my stepson had an idea, and this was actually back during the NFL season. And I thought, you know, that's actually a really good idea. He's 10. So we were talking about, because tanking was kind of happening in the NFL too. And he said, what if after the season or during the playoffs, the teams that have been tanking all year play each other, and in some type of round robin or bracket, however you want to do it, the team that wins gets the number 1 pick. And I thought, you know, that might be $1 billion idea.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, you've had worse.
Well, no, and I mean, think about it. Like, if you're a team that's actively tanking for like 2 months of the season, and then suddenly you're tasked with winning.
Right. We're like, oh, hey, nice job getting to the bottom of the standings, but now you've got to win this 8-team tournament to get that number 1 pick.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Right?
I don't think it would work in football just because of the intensity of the sport and the physicality of it. But yeah, it's a really good idea.
Basketball. I'd watch an 8-team tanking tournament to see who's going to draft Aaron Peterson and DeBonsa and those guys.
Well, and then think about like the veterans on the team that are like they're trying to win, but then also are they like they're trying not to be replaced by the guys that are coming in. It's an odd dynamic.
Try to win so they can
Get replaced.
Right. That'd be awesome. Here for that. Caleb Wilson is out indefinitely with a left hand fracture. How does that impact the top of college basketball? The North Carolina star, they were surging, right? They were starting to figure some things out defensively. They got that huge win over Duke. I bring this up because I still think that like there's so much of the season left before Selection Sunday, almost a month of basketball. I still think the 1 seeds, the 2 seeds, it's all wide open.
Yeah, no, and you know, one of the things I think is really interesting is, you know, can a one and done freshman lead a team to a national championship? And look, there's more than one way to skin a cat. I don't know if you knew that. I don't know how.
Is there?
I don't know how often
you can skin a cat multiple ways.
I don't know how often you skin cats, but there's lots of ways to do it.
When I'm skinning cats, it's like, which way do I want to? What do I? Which one should we do today?
But like we've seen that before, right? Carmelo led Syracuse. Like it's happened. It's not like it hasn't happened. I mean, Anthony Davis, like there's examples of it, but you know, there's also examples of it not working so well. But this is a year where you've got a lot of guys in that position that could factor into winning to championships. So, look, injuries always dictate the outcome of seasons, you know, and this is the part of the year where, you know, frustrations are high. Like you've got emotions boiling over and you've got injuries that happen.
Wild times in college basketball. All right, coming up next, names to know. Big 12's top newcomers at running back. We have each picked out
This is going to be fun.
Top 5.
I want to see I bet we have the same number 1, but everybody else will be different on our list.
Everybody else.
Yes.
In terms of even making the list or in their order?
Making the list.
All right, we'll see. He's Ari, I'm James. It's Big 12 Radio. Exclusively on TuneIn, powered by Modelo.
And the opening tip is controlled by the Horned Frogs. Scott's got unlimited range and shows it early.
And as you watch, a lot of sets, but primarily it still goes back to that middle third on-ball screen for TCU.
Miles going to keep taking the threes if they're going to let her have it. It looks like she's coming back right now. You're going to see her top of your screen there, number 5, making her way back to the bench. Suarez having her way right now in the paint. 8. Little Page Bugs on the push. Scott will try a deep 3. Finally, the drought ends for Baylor. And you can see 5 for 6 at the end. Talia Scott was the hot hand. She had 16 points, 13 coming in the quarter, and she joined the 1,000-point club. Olivia Miles. TCU is 0-2 in those 2 games when she's gone for 31. Van Geitenbeek out of the timeout. She answers with a 3. She's had a good game. 5 on the shot clock. Miles with the handle. Miles with the step back. Miles with the 3. You know Olivia knows she's got 38, and her teammates know it too. Suarez had a good night as well. Suarez will take it and make it. TCU comes to Waco, and they post an impressive 83-67 win.
Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo, where off-season optimism is
mandatory.
It's mandatory. Brett Yormark, he's going to join us at 8:15 Central Time, the Big 12 commissioner, to talk about the ASB partnership and the new glass floor that'll be in Kansas City at the men's and women's Big 12 basketball tournaments. Jeff Woody, former Iowa State running back, joins us here in about 15 minutes because this is our Names to Know segment. We do it every day. Big 12's top newcomers, and today we highlight the running back position. Ari and I have a wager that he doesn't think our lists are going to look at all similar. To me, I thought it was pretty easy to put together the top 4. I struggled at number 5, but of like the 8 or 9 guys that I had picked out, putting the top 5 together I thought was pretty clear. So I can't wait to see what your list looks like.
We're going to have the same number 1, maybe the same number 2, but that's it.
Okay.
You think we're going to have the same 4?
Yeah, I think just maybe in a different order. But let's see who you're working with.
Okay, I guess I'll go first today.
Yeah.
So my number 5, and this is the top 5 newcomers out of the Big 12 at the running back position. Jaquil Smith, the Sacramento State running back to Colorado. This is sort of an under-the-radar running back addition for Dion and a team in Colorado that has really struggled to run the football. That they bring in Brennan Marion, and Brennan Marion, who is the head coach at Sac State, brings in both of his running backs, but I'm most intrigued by Smith. Smith last year was a true freshman for Sacramento State, had 511 rushing yards in 8 games, averaged 6.7 yards per carry.
Wow.
He's shifty, great vision, and he's just in his second year, a true sophomore. And the fact that he comes now to Colorado with experience already in Brennan Marion's offense, I think this dude's ready to explode, and especially, again, for a team in Colorado that under Dion has really struggled to run the football. My number 4 is Landon Chambers, the Central Arkansas transfer from UCF. UCF added a couple of transfers at the running back position, including a guy in Duke Watson that I'm also very excited about. But Landon Chambers averaged 5.3 yards per carry last year at Central Arkansas, 1,200 rushing yards. And Chambers is at UCF, not at Cincinnati. Did I screw that up?
Probably.
Okay. And then, I think I'm really excited about what UCF did. They brought in a lot of experience with guys that have produced, and Chambers, to me, is a guy that can take that step up. 242 carries, 1,200 rushing yards, 10 touchdowns last year in 2025. All right, my number 3 is Yassine Willis, the Syracuse running back transferred to Kansas. A couple of Kansas guys that I thought about adding here. But Willis, 558 rush yards on 4 touchdowns on 129 carries. Per the Pro Football Focus numbers, Willis was the most effective running back between the guards. He averaged 5.4 yards per carry as an inside rusher. So I love that. Not an outside guy. A guy that actually running outside the tackles at the edge was 3.8. So this is a guy that gets the hard yards between the tackles, and I love what he'll bring to the table in Andy Kotelnicki's offense. My number 2 is Mekhi Hughes, a guy that we've spent a ton of time talking about. He's the Oregon transfer to Houston, but spent time before Oregon at Tulane. He rushed for 2,779 yards and 22 touchdowns at Tulane with Willie Fritz as the head coach, and a guy that I think John Summerall wanted at Florida, but instead goes to Houston. Didn't do much at Oregon, but transfers to Houston, formerly with Willie Fritz at Tulane. And then my number 1, who I would imagine is also your number 1, is Caleb Hawkins, the North Texas running back who transfers to Oklahoma State. There's a bunch of guys that transferred with Eric Morris from North Texas to Oklahoma State. This guy may be the best. 25 rushing touchdowns last season. That led the nation. Of course it did. He also averaged 6.2 yards per carry. So 231 carries, 1,400 rushing yards, 25 touchdowns in 2025. Plus, he also caught 32 passes for 370 yards and added another 4 touchdowns. Dude had 29 total touchdowns last year. He's a machine. So, again, lots of players that came with Eric Morris from North Texas to Oklahoma State. Obviously, most will focus on the quarterback, Drew Mestemaker, and that makes a ton of sense. But I would argue that Caleb Hawkins is maybe the most explosive, best player that North Texas, that Eric Morris is bringing from him with North Texas. Bringing with him from North Texas. So there you go. How many do we have that's the same?
Dude, I love your list. We only have 2.
Told you!
You were right. Landon Chambers was number 6 on my list. And I noted Willis, great find, by the way, almost 6 yards per carry between the guards. That's going to be the perfect complement to another guy who will be toting the football for KU that made my list. All right, my list looks like this. We think. We think
he'll be active.
Might be on the field, might not. I don't know. Could be Darren Peterson football version. Number 5 for me, I go with Jay Harris, who is a running back transfer from Oregon to Kansas State. Minimal touches at Oregon the last 2 years, but before that, he was a Division II star at Northwest Missouri State. He led all of Division II in rushing yards and touchdowns, had over 23 touchdowns his sophomore season at Northwest Missouri State, and he was the only running back that had any success in the college football playoff against Indiana. I'm sorry, in the regular season matchup against Indiana. He led the team in rushing in that game. So very small sample size at Oregon, but he's built like a tank, 6'2", 225 pounds, and runs really well. Number 4 on my list is Dylan Edwards, who transfers.
So is he a newcomer? I kind of grappled with whether or not he's an actual newcomer.
That's a good point.
But there's been previous Big 12 to Big 12 players we've had on this list, so I think it's fine.
He's a newcomer because he's at a new school and a new offense with new coaches, new teammates. So, yeah, I think he would qualify.
He's on his 3rd Big 12 school, by the way.
Right. Colorado, Kansas State, now Kansas. Will it work out? Bottom line is, when he's on the field, he is electrifying. Kansas State's offense was much more dynamic when he was out there last year, and maybe their best game of the year against UCF was the game that he had almost 200 yards. He had over 200 yards rushing in their bowl game against Rutgers, which was a single-game bowl record for K-State. He is a guy that, with Willis going between the tackles, he can get to the edge in the perimeter, and I think is a great fit in Andy Kotelnicki's offense, even if he's only touching the ball 8 to 10 times per game. Number 3 for me is Mekhi Hughes, the transfer from Oregon to Houston. He was a 1,000-yard rusher. In fact, he rushed for over 1,300 yards in Willie Fritz's Tulane's offense back-to-back seasons. Transfers to Oregon, doesn't make the depth chart, ends up kind of at odds with the coaching staff, but he's back in a familiar scheme with a familiar face in Willie Fritz, and I think he will shine at Houston. Almost 3,000 yards for his career on the ground. Number 2 for me is another guy that's a familiar face to Big 12 fans, Cam Cook, the Jacksonville State transfer who lands at West Virginia. With Rich Rod's creativity on the ground, he led the country in rushing yards last season at Jacksonville State, almost 1,700 yards on the ground. He also had 30 catches, so he's a great pass catcher out of the backfield. 16 rushing touchdowns, one of the top 2026 portal running backs, and a lot of schools went after him, and he lands at West Virginia because I think Rich Rod sold him on you can be a 150-yard per game guy here in this system. And then number 1 for me is Caleb Hawkins. This dude is a freak. He led the nation in yards after contact. He led the nation in forced missed tackles. He was in an air raid offense at North Texas and still rushed for 1,500 yards and had all those yards per carry and rushing touchdowns. He's also a guy who's just a tremendous athlete. He's a tall running back. He's 6'2", 200 pounds, so he's still kind of learning how to play the position at this level. He was a high school basketball star at Shawnee North Rock Creek High School in Shawnee, Oklahoma. And Eric Morris offered him after watching him play basketball.
Wow.
He has some sick highlights on YouTube, like some insane dunks. He is explosive. He is the number 1 transfer at the running back position.
I knew we would have the same number 1 and figured you'd also have Mekhi Hughes. So how about that? I love the Cam Cook edition, and I kind of wrestled with Dylan Edwards, but I really like Willis and love the addition of Jay Harris there. So really cool that we got some variety in our lists. My number 6, by the way, was Steve Chavez Soto, the San Jose State transfer to Utah. We know that Utah's offense is going to be, a ground and pound offense. I expect even under Morgan Scalley it to be similar that way. And this is a dude that averaged 5.1 yards per carry in just 8 games last year for San Jose State. And then a few other names to mention here. Zillin Perry, the Louisiana Lafayette transfer to Cincinnati, a guy that averaged 5 yards per carry, 8 touchdowns, almost 700 yards rushing, and he's an efficient back as well. So those are a couple of other names to know when it comes to the running back position. And then there's some freshmen. Amonte Martin is a 4-star from Port Arthur who's going to TCU. Amari Latimer is a 4-star from Georgia going to West Virginia. I think West Virginia is going to have really effective running backs. Rylan Morris, a 4-star from Honey Grove, Texas, going to Baylor. And then Corey Amarchi from Hazlet, Michigan, going to Kansas, a 4-star as well. So a lot of interesting, intriguing names. And I'm sure there will be other names that we don't even know about and haven't hit on that will emerge in 2026 at the running back position.
A lot of guys coming back in this league. When you look at L.J. Martin and Cameron Dickey and Jacoby Williams and the running backs, Baylor had a bunch of freshmen like Caleb Knighton and Michael Turner that'll be their backs this year. Arizona State's going to lean on Kyson Brown with Raleek Brown transferring to Texas. So it's an exciting year, I think, at that position in the Big 12. All right, a guy that was a really good player at Iowa State, Jeff Woody, who's now an analyst for ESPN. He will join us. Played running back for the Cyclones from 2009 to 2013 to break down this position group coming up next here on Big 12 Radio. Here are the top plays from this week's Player of the Week.
Just behind her is TK Pitts, who misses her first jumper. No look, into Silva, all the way to the rack. Olivia Miles feeds it to Donovan Hunter. Gets it out to Bielefeld in the corner. Drives, kicks out with a one-handed pass to Miles, who singes the strings from the wings.
And we see that right here, Miles 3. The defense was collapsed and left her wide open, but Kiara Merchant has come.
Stepping in, Kayla King given the continuation, but again, another miss. TCU all over the glass. They have been all game. Olivia Miles doing it herself, flanking it up from the hip and somehow over the top of the rim and in. TCU really started to elongate this lead early in the second quarter and has not looked back. Miles around that high screen, dumps it off to Suarez for 2.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They're not shying away from those inside looks, making sure they're making those cuts.
Miles did it again. That is, wow, that's tough. Played all those great years at Notre Dame, now weaving through the lane.
I say TCU just out. Toughen CU right now on this possession.
Wow, another run-through rebound. That one Silva on the sheer miss. Can Miles end the possession successfully? Yeah, and her coach, Mark Campbell, is right in her ear celebrating that 3. The other side shutting down Hunter. Deep ball. Miles is good from out there, too.
I was going to say, Olivia Miles just going to keep dribbling and try to create some kind of chaos. And Utah caught in the middle of it.
Miles hits the shot and hits 30 points on the day.
guess we'll just have to do it live. It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. Our Big 12 basketball game of the week features Kansas at Iowa State. A Valentine's Day matinee at 1 Eastern, noon Central, tomorrow right here on the channel. Speaking of Iowa State, we welcome in Jeff Woody, former Iowa State running back.
I can't hear anybody.
And Jeff Woody is telling us he can't hear anybody. So he cannot hear me. We can see him and we can hear him, but he cannot hear us. And when the day comes in which he can, we will talk about the running back position in the Big 12 Conference. Jeff, you got us?
Now I got you.
He's got us now.
There we go.
Look at
I got you.
Taman working the board. Jeff Woody, former Iowa State running back. All right, Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Man, we're excited to have you join us for this segment because you were Iowa State running back and doing stuff for ESPN. When you look at the running backs like collectively in the Big 12, Ari and I were talking earlier about, remember last year there were so many Big 12 running backs that were going to be playing on Sundays, like R.J. Harvey and Cam Scadaboo. Now we look at the position, and there is a lot of retention in this league with L.J. Martin and Dickey at Texas Tech. So what's your take overall on the strength of the position?
Overall, in the strength position, it's kind of weird because you've got, like, I kind of bucketed them into three categories, and you're asking me to rank or like bring up notable names in February after the transfer portal. Hell, guys, come on. But the broad strokes of it are, I think there's the top of the conference is going to be really good this year. Like for me, I think offensively, especially, the top of the conference is going to be really good. And then you have a lot of like complete unknowns in the middle of it. And you could I went to Iowa State and I cover Iowa State a decent amount. You look at an Iowa State, I have no idea how good Iowa State's going to be. And by that, I mean, I don't think they're going to be bad. I don't think they're going to be good. I mean, I truly don't have an idea. And you have some guys that, like, the top of this, your LJ Martins, like, you know that LJ Martin's going to put up numbers. But then you have some other guys that, like in the Iowa State camp, now granted, a little different situation where it's completely turning over a whole roster, but it's an interesting year where I think the top will be pretty good. You have a lot of guys that could join that. But then you also have some, like, what's Rich Rod in West Virginia going to bring? I don't know. Like, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. It's an interesting, totally blind year for me outside of your top few.
Yeah, and believe me, we were not going to ask you to rank the newcomers at the running back position. What we did. We really brought you on to talk about the running back position as a whole. But while we're on the topic, who is going to be the running back for Iowa State?
I think, gun to my head, I think you're not going to have one guy. I think the thing that they're probably going to do is they'll do a little bit of what Arizona did last year, where they had Madi, Risano, and Craig, and you've got three guys that all do about the same thing, but do it pretty well. But if one guy that's kind of under the radar, and I did actually make a list. I was just kind of giving you guys crap, but like the guys that kind of stuck out to me. But the Iowa State, Aiden Flora, he's a kick returner.
Yep.
He played quarterback in high school, so he never really played the position. But he is fast. Like, he's not just gritty, tough, hardworking fast. He is fast. So, I mean, he's like, I think he was a 10.5 or a 10.600 guy. So you get him in situations. He might have games where he's got 32 yards, but he also might have games where he has 160 because he has two 50-yard runs. Like that kind of explosive. But Iowa State, with them specifically, they have a fullback who's their offensive coordinator, and they've got like 61 tight ends on the roster. So it is going to be a downhill style offense that you're going to have to match the physicality of. Will they do it well? We'll see.
So, Jeff, what does your list look like?
Yeah, I can't believe you did this.
Give us the list.
Way to go!
I mean, this is prep, man. I was talking with the kind of the brass at ESPN when I was just kind of a postseason wrap up, and I told him, I was like, I had 6 games last year and I filled up an entire notebook with prep. So the guys that to me the guy that the people that stick out, like there's kind of three categories to me. There's the what we know, there's the guys coming off injury, and then there's the total wild cards, which could jump into that category. And then there's also like the fourth kind of unspoken category is just people we don't know, like Scott Frost at UCF.
Yeah, probably
going to be good at running the ball, but who's going to be running the ball? I don't know. And so there might be a guy that pops up from there, but LJ Martin, it kind of has to start with LJ Martin because he led the Big 12 in rushing last year, and Bear Bachmeier is only going to get better. And having a physical downhill running attack that they're going to have, whoever carries the ball is going to run for 1,000 yards. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And LJ Martin is really, really good. I mean, he had 5.3 per carry in a downhill running style, which is like, that is insane. I think Jacoby Williams and Cam Dickey, you also have to look at right away because they had 2,000 yards combined. But the problem that I have with Williams and Dickey is that they're guys that are going to accumulate a ton of stats. But until you have a more consistent attack, like when you look at that Oregon game, the problem, like quarterback play wasn't great in that game. Like we can kind of say that pretty comfortably from the Tech side, but they also couldn't run the ball, so they couldn't help them out. So I think that to me is, I want to see them make that step because the expectations are different for Tech. I mentioned Arizona with their three-headed monster. They lost Mahdi, but they kept Ricino and Craig. And those to me, if there's a dark horse team in the league broadly, it's Arizona. They've got Fafita back, they've got those two running backs back, and their defense is insane. But then the other one that to me is like in this top category of what we know, my daughter just woke up. If you could hear the wow. But the other one I put the category of is Caleb Hawkins. The dude from Oklahoma State, like you look at his stats from North Texas, the dude had 1,800 yards and 29 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Like that translates. So to me, that's kind of like that to me is the first blush is like, as I look across the conference, who do I think if I had to put my own money on who's going to have a solid rushing year and be towards the top of the league, it's those four kind of combinations.
One of the things we've been talking about with all of our, positional experts, if you will, throughout the series is, how has the position changed? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it feels like the running back position may be one of the only positions in the sport that hasn't really changed, or has it?
It's changed in what they're doing hasn't really changed. Like what a running back does hasn't really changed because you still have to, the first 3 to 5 yards of the run, are you kind of dancing with your offensive linemen, controlling what the defense is going to do. And then after that, it's go do something special. That really hasn't changed. I think what has changed though is, and it kind of started in college and then it got bumped up to the NFL and highlighted a lot more. And Ben Johnson has really been the one that's changed it, is that in the past, teams have looked for one guy. And if they didn't have one guy, they'd say they wanted 5 guys, like just have a bunch of different dudes that can do a bunch of different things. Like I was the short yardage guy, and then we had 2 other guys. So you got a bunch of different guys. Versus now, I think the goal is that you've got at least 2 guys that in any game situation, you just put them in. You just throw them into the game. And that's your Jahmyr Gibbs, your David Montgomery. That's who you're trying to get. And so now having 2 guys, the expectation in the running back room is it's always been, you're not trying to steal reps from somebody, but there is always this fear that like, if I don't perform, I'm not going to be the guy. Well, now people aren't looking for the guy. They're looking for the guys. Like, I think admittedly coaches are looking to play a bunch of different guys. So they're not putting everybody, there's even Derrick Henry shared reps. So like, that's the type of position that they're sort of moving to, is the expectation of who is doing that job is now the expectation is 2, as opposed to the expectation being 1.
And Jeff, why do you think that is? Is that more a product of these offenses and their creativity? You need a between the tackles guy, you need a pass catcher guy, you need a blocker guy, or is it wear and tear? What would you attribute that to?
I'd give that 100% to wear and tear, because I think the position itself, even when you're not doing anything, it's hard. Like you get the ball, that's the fun part. But where do tackles happen? At the ball. All right, great. So everyone's running, trying to hit you. Okay, so when you have the ball, it's kind of hard. You get physically taxed. But when you don't have the ball, you're still running a route. Like a receiver, or you're having the blitz pickup. So like just the physical nature of the game, like even if your guy is healthy, by the time you get 14 snaps into a drive, like that guy doesn't have the same kind of juice. So if you put all your effort into one body, then that play 7, 8, 9 of that drive starts to go to waste. And so if I have two guys, I could have a 14-play drive because now I can just switch Reesano and Craig. I can just put them both back in and then rotate them, and everybody's fresh and everybody's good, and it doesn't miss a step the entire way through. So I think it's more pragmatically independent of getting injured. It's more like during the game, I don't want to have to change my entire offense because I have one guy that got tired because he's in for 9 straight snaps because it's a really hard position to play.
You know, what's really interesting, Jeff, is so we've had back-to-back Super Bowl winners that were basically carried by defense and running backs. I mean, Saquon Barkley and the Eagles pass rush last year, and then Kenneth Walker wins Super Bowl MVP, and Seahawks defense was dominant. When we look at college football, Fernando Mendoza was the story. Indiana had a good running game, but it seems more like almost old school NFL that what we're used to. I don't know. Just comment on that. There's no question there. It was just kind of an interesting anecdote, right? I mean, there's 2 straight years of Super Bowl winners that were carried by running games.
I think this is the pendulum always swings.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the reason the pendulum swings is, again, using Iowa State, I'm not trying to bring everything back here, but in this case, it's appropriate. So in the 2000, when I was playing in the Big 12, it's the Robert Griffin years, it's the Geno Smith years, it's you're scoring 70 points because everything's super wide open. Well, if you're going to try and stop that, you can't stop that with heavy personnel. So what do you have to do? You're going to start playing with lighter personnel. Iowa State switched to 3-3-5, and that became the thing that everybody's playing against spread offenses. Well, now you got 3 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, and 5 defensive backs. What should we do against that? We should run the ball. Well, we can't run it with light personnel because their safeties, they know how to stop the run. The linebackers know how to stop the run. So let's get more tight ends in there. And now we have a mismatch. So you've got a tight end heavy offense that has an offensive advantage against the defense. So the advantage, because the pendulum swung so far to trying to stop the spread, the advantage is punishing people with a physical running game because rosters haven't caught back up to that. Give it another 2 or 3 years, everyone's going to be running this 2 or 3 tight end set. Now they're going to be having 4-3 linebackers again, and now people are going to spread it back out because you now put those guys out in space. So the swing is going to keep going back and forth. I think we're right in the middle of the transition of defenses are now going to kind of switching back to being a more conventional 4-3s. Now, the linebacker position, you're going to have one of your linebackers is going to be like 6'1", 225, who's a runner, but you're still going to have him be a linebacker that's going to play like downhill. So we're in the middle of that swing, and I think given another 2 or 3 years, and you're going to start seeing super spread open again, trying to throw the ball, the Mike Leach era.
Yeah, and it's a great point. I was thinking about Nick Emenware for the Seahawks, who was arguably the defensive rookie of the year this year, who's that linebacker safety hybrid. And I'm thinking, like, man, it's crazy to think how far the John Haycock defense has traveled, that now they're all, the NFL is looking for these linebacker safety hybrids. And I think you're right. Like, even if the league and college football transitions back to more of a traditional, 4-3 and goes away from that rush 3, drop 8, they're still going to want these multifaceted linebacker safety duels.
Yeah, it's wild to think that, John Haycock being like, well, we don't have enough bodies to play defensive line has changed it this far. Right. But it really kind of it was one of the things that kind of led it forward, because then you go, all right, well, we got this guy that's 6'2", 215. He's really good at football, but we don't really know, he's not fast enough yet to be a safety. He's not quite big enough to be a linebacker. Just put him on the field, see what he does. And then it ends up being that. Like, it's just there's a bunch of guys that do that. So I think that's kind of the fun part about the evolution and shows constant flux of football.
Yeah, great point.
Awesome stuff, man. Jeff Woody, former Iowa State running back, joining us to break down the running back position here on Big 12 today. Thanks, Jeff.
My pleasure.
You're the best, Jeff. Be well, man.
Jeff Woody, former Iowa State Cyclone running back, to break down our names to know, Big 12 top newcomers or top returners at the running back position. We've got the commissioner, Brett Yormark, coming up here at 8:15 Central Time to break down the Big 12's new partnership with ASB and just the surge of attention on this conference when it comes to basketball. But coming up next, Red Raider Life. How are they doing it at Texas Tech. We'll break that down. He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio.
Here are the top plays from this week's Freshman of the Week.
Benali comes around the screen. She hit a couple of threes in the first half, misses that time.
You can see that she has the confidence.
Meister into Davis. One way, then the other. Beautiful move. Jalea Davis spins. Williams there to grab the loose ball. Evans, Davis, and one. They're second in the Big 12 in offensive rebounds. They've only gotten 7 in this game compared to 9 for Kansas. Jalea Davis catches, got it, and she was fouled. Nichols weaves her way in. Jalea Davis with another rebound, score, and foul.
Had a look. Here comes Nichols. Gets free. Bounce pass to Davis, and one. Good help that time. Fandel jumping out on Devilisi to try to help. Davis, the spin move in the lane and hits. Junior guard from Andover, Kansas. Handling the basketball here. Gets it to Davis. Davis draws the foul and hits. The 1-2 punches for each team going to work here so far. Little leaner in the lane by Nichols, no good. How about Davis, the and one?
Catch there by Nichols. I love that she took that shot, even though she probably had
foul. Now they're saying don't. Meister, shot clock at 3, at 2. Davis from 16 hits.
that the men's and women's Big 12 basketball tournaments will be played on in Kansas City. On the women's side, last night the rivalry showdown between TCU and Baylor. TCU's Olivia Miles, and this is why I believe they could be a dark horse, deep Cinderella run type team on the women's side in the NCAA tournament because of this player. She had 10 threes last night, the most by a conference player in a Big 12 league game ever, all time. She is the only Big 12 player to reach 40-plus points in a true road game against a ranked opponent this century. All the greats that have played women's basketball, Brittany Griner, Aoka Lee, who were scoring 40, 50, 60, nobody did it against a ranked opponent like she did.
And also, you mentioned the 10 threes. It's actually the first time in 25 years that a D1 player has made at least 10 threes on the road against a ranked opponent. So just a historical night last night for Olivia Miles. And, this was a huge game. And obviously it went the way that it went.
Final score, TCU 83, Baylor 67. TCU's now 22-4 and 10-3 on the women's side in Big 12 play. All right, so before we talk with the commissioner here in about 10 minutes, Texas Tech, and I love their transparency. Texas Tech's athletic director, Kirby Hocutt, reveals a big increase in scholarships. He talked with Don Williams from the local paper there in Lubbock, the Lubbock Avalanche Journal. What were your main takeaways from just how Texas Tech is doing things with their budget?
Yeah, so basically the Red Raider Club is, making its rounds. It's going to be in Dallas next week at the Rustic, and in their first stop, most programs will do this. They'll go around the state and and meet with alumni that contribute to some sort of fund or some sort of group, and then basically lay out the plan. And Kirby laid it out pretty well. Tech is going to commit the maximum allowable shared revenue to its athletes. They're also introducing 80 new scholarships outside of football, so across baseball and other sports, they're going to be infusing new scholarships. And I think maybe one of the bigger pieces is how they're guaranteeing true NIL to athletes. So, within their contracts with Learfield and Adidas, those partners, they are guaranteed a certain amount. And basically, Hocutt and Texas Tech have asked them to redirect that amount to the student athletes to do NIL deals with them. So Adidas, they're basically, there's in their contract stipulates a certain guarantee on how much they get in terms of Adidas gear, and then also, another number of spent money on marketing. And basically, Hocutt is saying redirect that for NIL deals with their athletes. And then the other thing they're doing is partnering with G3 Marketing to put on men's basketball fantasy camps. So same kind of thing where it's like a true NIL deal. They're going to siphon it through, the College Sports Commission and the Deloitte Clearinghouse, and basically put up a fantasy camp with their current players and, get corporate partners to sponsor it or local businesses to sponsor it, and then bring those dollars back to so very creative, forward-thinking ways to guarantee more dollars to their athletes that are above board and part of this, true NIL. And then, of course, the transparency for Kirby Hocutt to basically say that publicly in a way that anybody else can do it. You've just got to have the infrastructure in place in order to do it.
Man, they are ahead of the curve when it comes to this stuff, because that's been a big talking point is how are these deals legit when guys are getting $4 or $5 million? Well, the piece from Adidas, which is their apparel partner, the apparel partners, I love that aspect of it because that's like a built-in, surefire way to compensate players in a legit manner. It's no different than Patrick Mahomes having a deal with Adidas, or LeBron and Nike, or Steph and Under Armour. I love that Texas Tech is using that angle. Here's what their AD, Kirby Hocutt, said publicly when he was at one of these meetings.
This entire country is recognizing and noticing what's taking place at Texas Tech. And we are West Texas. College athletics is important in West Texas. College football is very important in West Texas. So it's made this journey's so much fun, but, to have the visibility to put West Texas on the map across this entire country has been very special. And it's so many ways. It's obviously advancing to the college football playoff. It's winning on the national stages that Grant McCaslin has done in basketball, such as the win at Madison Square Garden over Duke this year. It's paramount in showing Landman and what is being showcased as West Texas. So all of it together, it's an exciting time to live in West Texas and to represent the brand of West Texas that we all take great pride in.
The other thing, the non-revenue generating sports, the Olympic sports, if you will, they've added 80 new scholarships to those sports. Baseball's up from an average of like 11 or 12 to 34, which is the new roster limit under the settlement. And how are they doing that? And it has blown my mind that they can be so dominant in the other sports while simultaneously being so good at football and the influx there. Well, I think I found it, and Hokut noted it's because football is staying at 85 scholarships, even though the new cap allows 105. So they're taking 85 instead of 105. That opens up 20 scholarships and the money that would go to those players sitting on the sidelines to other sports.
Yeah, and the results bear it out. 9 of its 17 total teams have been nationally ranked, and at least 2 more are sure to be when it comes to softball and baseball. So, it's working. Softball has become very high profile at Texas Tech. I mean, now being featured in that Clearwater Invitational, which is that softball early season tournament that's going on now. They played Florida State yesterday, right? And that there's no direct line to, like, we talk about these non-revenue producing sports. Softball is probably one of them, but like, there's no direct line from a revenue standpoint. But you better believe that helps enrollment in a huge way. Softball specifically. I think also, like, Hokut talked about having 2 buckets. There's like the one bucket that is, I think, what most people think about with Texas Tech. That's the Cody Campbell stuff. And then there's a second bucket, which is Texas Tech fans, alumni that maybe aren't in the Cody Campbell category but could still contribute in a meaningful way. And basically what he said was, it's that second bucket that helps us get to a national championship in football. Mm-hmm. He said the first bucket gets us to Big 12 championship and to the Orange Bowl. The second bucket, though, that's what gets us to a national championship. It gets us to Final Fours. And I think it's a great way to position it, to say, like, we need all of you, Texas Tech alum fans, to contribute in any way, and that will help us lead to winning. Right.
Yeah, really good stuff in terms of how they're doing it in Lubbock.
And look, I think the other part to this is it can this be duplicated, right? Because we look at Texas Tech, and I think BYU is doing a lot in this capacity. But I think this is a blueprint for all schools. If you don't have a Cody Campbell, it's finding some donors to help fill that first bucket, and then the second bucket, it becomes as important, which is all the millions of fans and alum that you have, hundreds of thousands, whatever it is, bring them together under a common goal and find, like, we want to lift up all of these sports because there's so many opportunities, not just in basketball or football.
Yeah, good stuff. Big 12 Conference Wrestling is back at the BOK Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The 2026 Big 12 Wrestling Championship, presented by Allstate, returns on Friday, March 6th and Saturday, March 7th. It's in the heart of downtown Tulsa. Tickets and premium hospitality are available now at bokcenter.com/events. That's Big 12 Wrestling Championships at the BOK Center in Tulsa, coming up soon, March 6th and 7th. Also joining us around the corner is the commissioner, Brett Yormark. After this timeout, this is Big 12 Radio, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Here are the top plays from this week's Player of the Week.
Only player in the country averaging 20 and 10. JT Topper. Flip to Tiller.
Nice.
Lob to be Dunga, and they throw it down. Flory off the feed from Tiller.
It's funny, John, when you talk to the Kansas coaches, you go back 10 years.
Watts. Oh, he's rejected. Badunga came in and helped out Tiller.
Because Kansas's defense has been excellent.
Tiller, lob,
Nice.
Badunga!
Yeah. Great call.
He'd been so quiet for so long. His first points of the half. And Badunga rejects Toppin. Good basketball.
We talked a lot about him.
Yeah, 2 out of 16.
Yeah, and 0 points, 4 turnovers in that first half.
Nice job on the lob, and they'll run a lot of those alley-oops. And you see Sanders under stress that time. Jayhawks picking up the D. Another alley-oop. Badunga. It does so.
Their ability to share the basketball. Now, I know analytically a lot of people will disagree with me, but it's like a layup for him, Tim. And you saw that jump shot right there. He had to fall away from the baseline. 6th in the country. Field goal percentage at almost 68%. And obviously those two are first in the league.
How about that?
6'10" with a 7'3" wingspan. They like that. He contests. He can be better defensively, but boy, can he pass the ball.
Another rejection by Badunga.
Back inside Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. You're listening to us on TuneIn, watching on the Big 12 Fast Channel, Big 12 Studios. We welcome in the Commissioner, Brett Yormark, here on the program. Good morning, Brett.
Good morning, guys. It's great to be with you both today.
Man, the basketball has been, it feels like each and every Saturday feels like the NCAA tournament in the Big 12, and you've said this is the best league in America, and we're with you on that. So in your eyes, what separates the Big 12 from the SEC and the Big 10 and the ACC in hoops right now?
Well, first, guys, it's been a great season to date. I think the top half of this conference is the best it's been in years. And you're right. Game in and game out, ranked versus ranked is happening in this conference, and it creates some compelling matchups. And it does feel like March Madness. I mean, I was at, as an example, the Arizona-Kansas game on Monday night, and I was receiving a ton of texts from friends, and they said, Brett, this feels like a Final Four game. And it was. I mean, the atmosphere there was incredible. But we're finding that across our campuses this year. And candidly, across the country, I think there's incredible excitement for college basketball. But the focus, obviously, is on the Big 12, and I think a lot of it is based on the great freshmen we have. I mean, it's been unbelievable, and they're no longer freshmen now. I mean, these are bona fide players that are contributing at the highest levels to their programs, and many of them are projected first-round draft picks. I mean, we should have 3 of our freshmen in the top 5 this year. But we also have, at the same time, returning veterans. Those have been in the Big 12 that continue to raise their game to a new level. So the mix of both makes for just a very interesting season for us. So very excited about our basketball product, but it is also it's not just on the men's. The women's are having a great season too. Lots of parity there. When you think about, our women's product, and, the road to our tournament in Kansas City is going to be incredible. A lot of drama. And then, of course, when it unfolds in Kansas City, it's just going to be amazing.
Speaking of Kansas City, we cannot wait to see what this ASB glass floor looks like. With the announcement made this week, it's really exciting. Can you just describe why this is a game changer for the league?
Well, we're always trying to elevate the game in everything we do. I mean, you guys know that better than most, and we are a different league, and we like to lean into that point of differentiation. And being different means we've got to be first movers, we've got to be innovative. And I think the glass floor is truly indicative of our position as a conference. And we've been exploring it candidly for the last couple of years. Last year, as you know, we introduced our version of a Gucci pattern, and it went viral. It was well received. The players enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed it. I think our fans ultimately warmed up to it once they, experienced it. So my team and I were thinking about how do we take it to another level this year. And my head of business, Tyrell, my head of basketball, Brian, had been, having continued conversation with the folks from ASB. And candidly, over the holiday, when I went to the Pop-Tarts Bowl, I stopped in Orlando because that's where they have a warehouse that houses the glass floor, and experienced it, looked at it, saw the creative flexibility, saw the brand integration possibilities, saw what it would mean for fans in the venue, from an experience perspective, and said, hey, why not? And then we got buy-in from the coaches and the ADs. So it was a pretty quick process, but I'm thrilled about it. And I think our fans are going to enjoy it that are in the arena. I think it's going to drive a lot of curiosity from viewers at home just to see what does this floor look like. We're going to truly be able to activate it during timeouts, quarter breaks, pregame, halftime, postgame. And the nice thing about it is the earlier rounds will have one creative application. And then as you progress to the semis, you'll have a different court, creative presentation, if you will. And then we'll have something more dramatic for the finals. So I'm really excited about the flexibility that the floor affords us. And I think the fans are going to love it. But most importantly, I think our student athletes are going to enjoy it.
Yeah, the guys from ASB was telling us yesterday that over 1,000 players have played on those types of floors and practice on them. The guys from the NBA and even some Big 12 guys who when they're playing UCF, will pop in to give it a trial run. So we cannot wait to see it. And speaking of, the audience and people watching at home or that'll be in Kansas City, the TV viewership this year in the Big 12, conference games on the women's side up 72%. On the men's side, the KU-BYU game was the most watched ESPN game day in any basketball game, any league in over 3 years. Just kind of a check-in with all the TV partners, and what does it say about the strength of the Big 12?
Well, it's been great. And, we talked about our media partners a little bit during Media Day in October. Starting with the women, the ratings are up to your point. I think it's about 72% for conference play. And I think that speaks to the parity of our conference on the women's side and also the talent across all of our teams. So that's very exciting. And then on the men's, we're up 30 plus on conference play. We're in the top 2 of conferences across America in viewership for conference play. So that's very exciting. And I think it's going to continue to grow because the back half of our conference schedule is obviously very robust. But I also think it speaks to the fact that we are the most distributed men's basketball product in collegiate athletics. We have 5 major media partners activating, promoting, and amplifying Big 12 basketball. So the diversification of our media business on the men's side has truly paid off. We spoke about it a little bit again at Media Days. We were hoping that ratings would grow and that we'd have increased promotion. And that certainly has come to fruition. And I think it's going to get better over the course of the last couple of weeks of the conference season.
And just expanding on that, Kamish, it's really interesting because it feels like, national media continues to talk about tanking in the NBA and, how bad it is or whatever. And as opposed to the product, and a big reason for that is because of all of the freshmen that are exploding right now in college basketball. So it's almost like not to say the negativity around tanking in the NBA has drawn a larger audience to college because it's saying, like, look at all these players that all of these teams are trying to actively lose games for in order to get to.
You're absolutely right. I've been reading a lot about that recently. In fact, I saw this morning 2 NBA teams were fined substantially.
Yeah.
For resting players. Having said that, it could be one of the best freshman classes going into the NBA in years.
Yeah.
We certainly are at the top of the freshman class when you think about what's going on in our conference, but it's across, college basketball generally. So I think it's just raising the interest level. And it's been a very exciting year. And I'm really looking forward to the tournament in March. I'd be surprised if we don't win a national championship. We've got many schools that certainly can vie for one. And I'm hoping that we get it. Last year we were so close, and sometimes you have to go through that before you get the one you want. And I'm hoping this year we can be a champion, one of our schools.
Man, with all the schools that are going to be 1 or 2 seeds in the NCAA tournament, I mean, we think this is a year that multiple teams are in the Final Four from the Big 12. I mean, do you feel like that is a strong possibility when you look at the strength there with the top 5 or 6?
I do. I was on the phone with a fellow commissioner this morning, and we were just talking hoops early this morning, and he, referenced how healthy we are, our conference this year. And, listen, you got to get lucky. We've been talented the last couple of years, but we weren't the best version of ourselves, some of our schools, because of health reasons heading into the tournament. This year, knock on wood, we've been healthy. And people have seen the best of the Big 12. And hopefully that continues getting into the tournament so that we can be the best version of ourselves. And if we are, to your point, my expectation is we'll have more than one in the Final Four.
Yeah, well said. So curious with the court itself. I mean, have you figured out some of the specifics on, what some of the digital enhancements will be, some of the marketing opportunities? I mean, how is that ongoing? Is it set? Is the court going to be, changing a lot? Like, I'm just very curious as to how this is going to look.
So my marketing team and content team are working on that right now. And it continues to evolve. And we're working very closely with the folks from ASB to make sure we get it right. We're also looking at what's been done before. In 2024, the court was used at the All-Star game on All-Star Saturday. Many EuroLeague teams use it, so we're in contact with EuroLeague teams just to see what the best applications are. One of the things we won't do is see a lot of movement during time of play. We don't want that to serve as a distraction, so it'll be somewhat static during those moments. But during timeouts, during quarter breaks, we'll activate it. And there could be some opportunities to activate the apron during play, but we want to minimize that because this is the first year and we want to gain some traction. Our goal is to be partnered with ASB long term, and being the first year, we want to get it right. We want to make sure that the student athletes have a good experience, that there aren't distractions on the court. We're not going to try to overly monetize it with commercial application and integration, although it's amazing. Ever since we announced it, we've been getting calls from different brands saying, I want to be a part of that.
I bet.
And we're going to make an announcement in about a week or so of a great brand that called us and said, we must be a part of what you're doing in KC. And it really fits the whole glass floor dynamic. So it'll be an interesting announcement. But we're going to really tone down the commercialization of it and really amplify, what we can do for our schools and our student athletes, because that's the right way to kind of set the tone. But a lot of flexibility with the court. And we're just excited that we're doing something different.
That's amazing. Last one, and that is, Big 12 Today and Big 12 Radio, super excited that we re-upped with Modelo. What's the Big 12's thoughts on that partnership?
Listen, I love Modelo. Renee, who runs the brand out of Chicago, is a good friend of mine. In fact, our relationship dates back to they were the official beer of the Barclays Center.
Wow.
When we opened Barclays Center, they were becoming very aggressive about getting into venues and into big markets like Brooklyn. So I've had a long time relationship with those folks. They're great partners. Obviously, they're really supportive of collegiate athletics. I mean, I think their biggest position obviously is the CFP, but they're also looking at basketball more now than ever before, and they love the partnership with you guys. So I appreciate all the work you do with them and for them, and I'm glad that they re-upped and are a part of the conference.
Awesome stuff. The commissioner, Brett Yormark, joining us here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, heard on TuneIn, powered by Modelo, watched on Big 12 Studios. Brett, cannot wait to see this floor in person when we see you up in Kansas City here in a few weeks.
I look forward to seeing you guys. Thank you both for all you do, and we'll see each other real soon.
All right.
Thanks, Commissioner. Take care.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank
Brett
you.
Yormark. Brett Yormark, the commissioner of the Big 12, breaking down the Big 12's new partnership with ASB, and that man is full of teases, the tease of all teases. We've been teasing the floor drops, and then right there during that interview he says we'll have another big announcement here in about a week about who might be part of this whole thing that'll be in Kansas City.
He famously has a whiteboard in his office, and it's just full of ideas. And, look, not all ideas make it to execution, but many do. And, the dude just doesn't stop working. And, for the member institutions of the Big 12, man, has he just been an incredible lifesaver. When we think about where this conference has been, on the brink of extinction to, being in position now as such an innovative league at the forefront of everything. And look, I mean, go back, like he first started, he wanted to do the basketball Rucker Park thing. They did it. It hasn't been something they've returned to. So I think, he's so forward thinking, he's so innovative, but he puts the manpower behind the things that he thinks work and work long term, and sometimes they might do things that don't work and they switch. But the ASB glass floor stuff, I cannot wait to see it. And I know there are probably a lot of Big 12 fans that are like, oh, it's just gonna be like a billboard, constant billboard. And he just said it right there. Like, yeah, they're going to lean into the commercialization opportunities that are there. But year one is not about commercialization opportunities. It's more about leaning into the student athletes and enhancing that experience. And and I think moving forward for this league, it's all about how much money the league takes in and then returns to its member institutions. This is a league that's trying to make up for the difference in revenue between other leagues, and they've got the right man in the driver's seat in order to drive that innovation, drive that revenue. And it's an uphill climb, but Yormark is doing everything he possibly can to turn over every rock in order to find the money that makes sense commercialization opportunities that make sense for the league. I mean, he's awesome. He's an incredible worker, and the dude is just he doesn't stop.
Yeah, and I love that because I've had, I'm sure your phone's been going bananas the last 24 hours since this has dropped. The question about, like, what is the floor actually going to look like?
Right.
And he clarified, and this is the information we were searching for as well. When the teams are actually playing the games, the court remains static. There's not going to be animations and graphics and all these different things while the ball is in play and these teams are actually playing the game. All that stuff is during timeouts or between games. But really cool that they can actually, they can completely swap out the floor design. Like the quarters and the semis and the championship can all look different. The design of the actual court itself.
Make no mistake about it. Within the next 5 to 10 years, and maybe even before then, every single basketball court in America at the professional and college level will have this court. Mm-hmm. Because it'll become a standard for a million reasons. Yep. And it'll be customized in all different kinds of ways. Think about a future in which a coach calls a timeout, the team huddles around, and he's drawing on the floor.
Right. And that can happen at the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City. It's amazing. I made the hardwood floors blockbuster, this is Netflix reference yesterday.
Yes, that's it.
Now I think, like, comparing it to football, this is the first down, the yellow line that's on your television screen. That is this. Now everybody has it. Somebody had to do it first, and the Big 12's all over it. All right, coming up next, we will preview some of the Big 12 men's basketball games. Another huge weekend featuring TCU and Oklahoma State. That's a massive matchup. Kansas and Iowa State, and then some others, including a non-conference game that'll have a big impact on the Big 12 and its pedigree. Our Hoop It Up segment is coming up next here on Big 12 Radio. Here are the top plays from this week's Newcomer of the Week.
That was ridiculous from Curry there. Really feeling it. See if they go back to Saunders. It's DiBonsa, and he nails it.
They double-teamed him or they blitzed him in the pick and roll, so 2 times on one possession, he's seeing a lot of bodies.
That's 2 straight threes, though. 12 points already tonight, despite some pesky defense from Oklahoma State.
Well, those are 2 elite names to be associated with right there. Look at the ATO. DiBonsa, remember the transition got him going early.
Sponsored by Marco's Pizza. Get your Marco's Pizza now at marcos.com. 16 points in the first half for DiBonsa. Here he comes, striding and rocking. Air AJ to tie it.
AJ DiBonsa putting his imprint on the game here in the first half for the Cougars. DiBonsa on the floor and one. AJ DiBonsa.
Well, the whole way. He's backing up. There's no way he can get legal, and he can't do anything about that. That was a really smart play by AJ. When you have a defender backpedaling in transit.
Saunders lost the handle. Kicked it over to DiBonsa. Ball fake, jumper, got it.
Watch now. This excellent defense. Little bump, up fake, step through. And we always say that that's his real estate. Got a mismatch, they think.
DiBonsa inside, a little bit short. And the throwdown, AJ.
Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. Brought to you the full-time fan by our friends at Modelo, where off-season optimism is
mandatory.
It's mandatory. It's not secondary. It's mandatory. Modelo fan rule number 16, the phrase, next year is both hope and a threat. Kansas State basketball, next year, coming for your Hawks. All right, next year is going to be a big year.
Yeah, football? Oh, we're coming for you guys.
All the sports.
Just wait till Dylan Edwards shows up in Manhattan for that Kansas State game. Yeah. Whatever that, short little winning streak Kansas State has against Kansas in football.
17 straight?
Just a cute little streak that's going to end this year. Dylan Edwards for 250 yards rushing. You heard it here first.
My only concern with K-State next year is too much depth.
Are they going to – my only concern with Kansas State football next year is will they be too good?
Right. Too many good players.
You may want to tone it down.
Not enough footballs and basketballs. Big 12 men's basketball. So the slate this weekend, it all gets started at noon Eastern time, 11 a.m. Central on ESPN2. Massive swing game for TCU at Oklahoma State. And then at 1 Eastern, noon Central on ABC, top 10 showdown for Kansas at Iowa State, Hilton Coliseum in Ames. The afternoon games on Peacock, Kansas State at Houston at the Fertitta Center. I'll be on the call for that one. On FS1 at 3 o'clock Central, Colorado at BYU. Also at 3 o'clock on ESPN. So the Big 12's on ESPN, Fox, and NBC in some capacity, all at the same time, 4 Eastern, 3 Central. Loaded lineup in the midday. Louisville and Baylor are playing at Dickies Arena in Fort Worth. So short drive for Baylor, less than 2 hours. Long trip for Louisville, who's in the top 25. And then the later games at 6 Eastern, 5 o'clock Central on FS1 West Virginia at UCF. And on ESPN at 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central, number 16 Texas Tech at number 1 Arizona. Two banger headliners in the Big 12 for this weekend. And then some intriguing kind of bubble watch games too.
Yeah, some really interesting games this weekend. It feels like we've had a stretch of, a bunch of stinkers, outside of the headliner. And this weekend, all of these games have really big stakes. I caught this note from the Big 12. Home teams in Big 12 play are 53 and 30. Mm-hmm. So, we said before the season started, you're going to lose Big 12 road games. It's all about how you win at home. There are 3 teams that are undefeated at home. And Kansas is a 4th that's undefeated at home in conference play. So it remains extremely difficult to win road games. Kansas is on an 8-game winning streak, going with Iowa State at Hilton Coliseum, going for the sweep of Iowa State this year, and Iowa State's 13-0 at home. So, we'll see Darren Peterson's status. He missed the game on Monday with the flu, but I think expectation is that he'll be available. We talked a little bit earlier about the TCU-Oklahoma State game. For all intents and purposes, that's sort of an elimination game here. Those are 2 teams flirting with 500. TCU, they win that game, I think that would be another quad 1 win for them.
Yes, it would.
So that they'd be then 5-6 in quad 1 and 6-6 overall. And by the way, I don't know if we're going to have time to get to this today, but TCU has a little bit of some NCAA tournament sleeper qualities to it. So they could be a very much under the radar sleeper NCAA tournament team as an 8, 9, 10 seed if they get in. But that's a huge one for TCU, who's now suddenly very much in the bubble picture. I think they were last 4 out via Joe Lunardi's latest bracketology. But so huge one at Gallagher-Iba. I mentioned Kansas, Iowa State. And then, look, if Baylor wants any shot of being a tournament team, they've got to win this semi-home game in Fort Worth against a 24th ranked Louisville. Plus, for conference bragging rights, that one was sort of confusing to see on the schedule. And then West Virginia UCF, it's another quad 1 opportunity there for West Virginia. And then, of course, Texas Tech, Arizona, that's the headliner. It's the 3rd game this season that will feature College Game Day in the Big 12. So the Big 12 is very much benefiting from this backloaded schedule. It's just worked out perfectly when you think about all these marquee matchups this conference has now, right when all of the eyeballs have come to college basketball. I mean, it has worked out perfectly. Just a stroke of genius by Brett Yormark, Brian Thornton, and the Big 12 here to backload the schedule. I mean, think about coming out of the Super Bowl, where all the attention now turns to basketball, and all anybody's talking about with the NBA is tanking. The Utah Jazz were fined $500,000 for tanking. Oklahoma City, behind the scenes, by the way, is furious with what Utah's doing because Oklahoma City owns Utah's pick if it's outside the top 8, and Utah's doing whatever it possibly can to stay inside that top 8. So, maybe they end up with A.J. DeBonsa, who played high school basketball in the state of Utah, who, of course, is playing at BYU.
And has already played several games at the Delta Center,
Yeah.
a game that I called back in November on a purple floor where the Jazz play, and he balled out.
Let's just say if Utah ends up with the number 2 pick, there are no coincidences,
Right.
But again, so all the attention turns to basketball. All anybody's talking about with the NBA is tanking because all these teams are trying to get to the top of this draft to draft some of these freshmen that are all featured in the Big 12. And you get Kansas and Arizona on Big Monday, literally the day after the Super Bowl, with one of the great crowds and environments in Allen Fieldhouse. And it just carries this momentum. I mean, it's not a coincidence. It's incredible.
And when you put the schedule together at the beginning of the year, you're essentially betting on who's going to be good.
Right.
And I think we kind of had an idea coming into this season, but there were still a ton of unknowns. And it has worked out magnificently because you have the headliners with KU and Iowa State, which cannot wait to see how that one goes down. I do not see Iowa State blowing out Kansas like they have the last several years in Ames. That's a final possession game to me. And then Texas Tech and Arizona, I still love that Texas Tech team in March. Arizona at home off a loss, how will they respond? But then the teams in the middle of the conference, like West Virginia and UCF playing each other, and TCU and Oklahoma State, right now, Ari, as of this very moment, in the NCAA net rankings, which is the number one metric that the committee uses, they look at Quad 1 and Quad 2 and your home and away splits. UCF is now 45th in the country, Baylor is 46th, and TCU is 47th. Those three teams are all ranked right there together, 45, 46, and 47. And then Oklahoma State and West Virginia are kind of in that next tier. Oklahoma State is 70th, West Virginia is 62nd. Cincinnati is now number 61 because of the way that they beat Kansas State. Like this, they skyrocketed in the net rankings. I think they jumped 15 or 20 spots to get up to 61. There are still teams in this league with life for the NCAA tournament, especially if TCU wins on the road at Oklahoma State. That, to me, puts them in. They were the second team out in Joe Lunardi's latest bracketology.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, 5-6 in Quad 1, to have 5 Quad 1 wins. And look, TCU has had to sweat it out the last few years on the bubble, and a couple years ago they got in, last year they didn't. Or I'm mixing them up, but like there's a year where they didn't get in and a year where they got in, both being on the bubble. They're going to be in the bubble again this year. But road wins have been tough, man. Road wins have been very tough, and Oklahoma State was absolutely boat raced on the road last week. So, we'll see. And look, Oklahoma State's also in the thick of it. They want to be a tournament team. But I will say this, TCU has experienced guards. They play a really good defense. They're top 25 in the country in defense, and they're top 25 in turnover rate. So they turn the ball over and they play good defense, which that is a recipe for success, not just in getting to the tournament, but in winning in the tournament too. And then on Texas Tech, it's really interesting because when you look at like season-long trends with Tech, they don't present to be a great defensive team, but with JT Toppin and Luke Bamboye, when they've been on the floor together over the last 2 games, Texas Tech is plus 16 in 22 minutes of game time. Prior to that stretch, the two hadn't played together since December 16th. On the season, Toppin and Bamboye have now played 87 minutes together. They've posted a 75.5 defensive rating, which would be in the 100th percentile of D1, and a 31.9% opponent effective field goal percentage, 100th percentile in that time too. So Texas Tech doesn't present from a season-long trend as a great defense, but with Luke Bamboye on the floor, they are.
Where does Joe Lunardi have them as a seed right now?
I think 3 or 4.
They, to me...
4. Am I right?
A 4 seed? So that means they could theoretically play one of these 1 seeds in the NCAA tournament. He has them as a 4 right now in San Diego. With UConn, the number 1 seed, I would take Texas Tech. That is a team that I think is built for March. And I sound like a broken record, but I want to be on record right now with how good I think that team is and how they're coming together. The 100th percentile defensively, that's the only thing that's been holding them back.
Right.
Offensively, they can fill it up with anybody, regardless of who's on the floor.
But remember, last year they had some injuries that really derailed what could have been a Final Four type season for them. So, hopefully now it's gone the opposite way, where Bamboye is finally healthy and in the lineup for a consistent period of time. Because it's funny to think that Bamboye is the key for their success in the tournament, but defense is a huge key to success in the NCAA tournament, and they are a much different and better outfit defensively with Bamboye. They're basically two different teams.
And you mentioned TCU. They are evolving. They're becoming the most fascinating case study in all of college basketball because they have some of the best wins in the country. Florida, that win is aging very nicely. They're now in the top 10 of Ken Pom and the net rankings. They have a close loss to Michigan. They have, like you said, those 4 quad 1 wins, which, by the way, there's only 3 other teams in all of college basketball that have that many quad 1 wins that currently aren't ranked. And it's Kentucky, Texas, and somebody else. I'll look here in a moment. Like, if they don't lose to New Orleans, if they don't give Utah their only league win, they are a shoo-in right now for the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, it's wild. And I think it's those 2 losses, especially the Utah one, it was like, well, now they're not going to be. When they lose to Utah, it's like, well, they're probably out.
And then they turn around and beat Iowa State.
Yeah. I mean, it's the mark of an inconsistent team. They need to find some level of consistency for sure. And, again, the fact that we've got the fact that TCU has a top 25 defense and they're top 25 in turnover percentage, they just don't turn the ball over. They play good defense. Like that works. That works.
Kansas and Iowa State. This will be the second matchup. Remember, the first time was an absolute nightmare for Iowa State. Kansas was backed into a corner. Iowa State was surging, and Kansas won that game by 20+, and it was over at the first media timeout. So Darren Peterson, all the talk about is he going to play, is he not going to play? Bill Self went on a long defending Darren Peterson narrative rant the other day. Here's what he said.
I don't know that there's another level of burst than the play he made in the first half against BYU.
Yeah, BYU.
This is I'm not a social media guy, but I have gotten on X and read some of the things and narratives that are out there about him, and it's really not remotely true. The thing about it is, when you're honest, people don't believe you. And when you tell, then you don't comment on it, people create their own narratives. And you know what? I do the same thing about things I don't know about. Well, it must be this, geez, it has to be that, if they're not going to talk about it. But here's the bottom line. Was his hamstring legit? Hell yes. Would you risk injuring it more in November? No. Was his cramping legit? Yes, positively it was. Did he turn his ankle bad to the point where he couldn't practice for 9 days and then practice one day and play BYU? Yes. And that was adrenaline kicking in the BYU game. And then, of all things, he gets sick. And this is what blows my mind. Well, he didn't play because he's sick, isn't a big deal. But he didn't play because he was sick when he didn't play the other games, added together becomes a big deal in people's minds. He's got a string of bad luck. But was he sick? Yeah, he's sick enough he couldn't practice. But he said he was still going to give it a run.
Yeah.
And he came to shoot around, and he gave it a run. And he went out before, and he gets lightheaded, and I walk in, and the doctor says, Bill, you're not going to be able to go. But the negative is that people saw him out there. What could have happened between being out there and not playing. Yeah. Bottom line is he was just trying to see if he could go. I mean, hey, if he wanted to run from it or hide from it, he wouldn't have gone out there. So the narrative is BS in many ways. I'm not sure. Load management. This kid hadn't talked about that at one time or anything. Load management. Geez, that's when you play 4 games in 7 days. That's not when you play, one half a week or anything like that. So those aren't true. The narratives have at least some of the ones I saw are inaccurate. But the whole thing is it's true. He's really sick. Is he better today? Yeah, he was out there yesterday. Was he full speed? No. Was he full speed today? No. I'm hoping he can be closer to full speed tomorrow, and hopefully he can be full speed on Saturday. But that's what he's dealing with, and it's a lot, I would think, when you're 19 years old.
Bill Self talking about Darren Peterson. So he went on for about 4 minutes. That is the first time that Bill Self has directly addressed all of the concerns, all of the narratives from college basketball, not just Kansas fans, but college basketball nation. And he said emphatically, hell yes, it's all true. He's been hurt, didn't want to risk it. He was sick, but people saw him on the floor and thought he was just soft.
So this is classic Bill Self. Bill Self has such an incredible way of being extremely direct and saying things that maybe aren't nice in the nicest possible way, right? I mean, at no point in that entire 3-minute clip we just heard did Bill Self sound angry or flustered or upset or mad, but yet he was. That's what makes Bill Self Bill Self. He is so likable and nice and genuine, and he just, even when he's emphatic and upset about something, makes it seem like he's not, which is a skill I would love to possess. I'm the complete opposite. If I'm mad and angry, there's no hiding it. I'm going to be very angry, and I'm going to say things in ways that are not nice.
Yeah, he's unhinged. You, not Bill Self.
Bill Self
you are unhinged.
Is the complete opposite of that. He's never unhinged, and so this is how amazing he is. And I've been somebody that has been, extremely forceful in my thoughts on Darren Peterson this year and the load management and everything else. And even I'm a believer after hearing that.
Right? Same. It's like, man, we had it all wrong. Just Bill being Bill. By the way, Kansas has signed a deal with Paramount Plus, part of this Made for March series, which will follow Michigan. They only chose 2 teams, Michigan and Kansas. It's going to be a 4-part docu-series that will track Kansas through the season with practices and games and interviews from basically now until March Madness. It's produced by Religion of Sports. It's going to premiere April 4th on Paramount Plus, which is the Final Four weekend, or right before it, for college basketball. How cool is that?
Well, and they picked the right team, for obvious reasons, not just because of the historical context of Kansas, but what they're going through. So I cannot wait to see, behind the scenes, all of the Darren Peterson stuff. And look, I think Self laid the truth bare there at one point when he said, he brought up the load management piece and said, directly said, this kid has never said anything about that. Now, he didn't say maybe his agent has or his dad has.
Right.
But Darren Peterson hasn't, which I believe fully. And we've heard the same thing from multiple places, including Tyshawn Taylor, who yesterday, mentioned, yeah, I know him. The dude is legit and been around him. He just loves ball and he's all about it. And there's no ego. And so but again, Self is very careful with his words, very pointed. He's extremely genuine and honest and open and fair. And I think we just got a full load of the frustrations that Bill has had throughout the entire season finally exploding in the most Bill Self way possible. Mm-hmm. And he said it, he's never heard any complaints or load management come out of his mouth.
Well, and the way the team is playing now, with him and without him both, lead me to believe that maybe this was just a lot of smoke, and what Bill Self and Darren Peterson and KU's camp, the way they've handled this, maybe they were telling us the truth all along, because KU's surging in both capacities.
Well, and the question here is has he pushed himself, beyond the injury or the pain, that threshold, right? Like, because that's nobody that's playing college basketball at this point of the season is healthy. Everybody's, hurt and dealing with things that have lingered over the course of the season. That's part of what makes athletes at this part of their season so amazing, is pushing through that. Mm-hmm. Think about the Olympics right now. All of these Olympians have going through the most rigorous, insane training to get to this point right now. Like, the amount of training they've done over the last year has been so insane and rigorous that they're probably all hurt. And, this is the end of the marathon. Mm-hmm. This is it. They're pushing through. And that's what makes amazing athletes amazing, is their ability to push through. So I think, maybe it hasn't been the injuries we've been questioning, but whether or not he's pushing himself as far as he possibly can. And, look, Self said it there. Are you going to push yourself with an ankle in November? No. Here's my question. Will he in March?
Remains to be seen. TBD. All right, coming up next, we'll continue our Big 12 basketball conversation, more previews, and some potentially dangerous Big 12 teams in the Big 12 tournament and the NCAA tournament, looking at some of the data before we talk with Chancellor Johnson, Big 12 storyteller and Big 12 analyst / connoisseur. He's going to join us around 9:20 Central Time. Live here on the channel. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. He's Ari, I'm James. We're exclusively on TuneIn and on Big 12 Studios.
Check out the top plays from this week's Big 12 women's basketball starting five.
I'd say it's so interesting. Neither of these teams really outstanding in terms of three-point shooting or three-point defense. So something had to give here.
Didn't make that happen. Into the half court go the Mountaineers. Walker's in front of that pass to Harrison. Shaw gave it away. Macker Lane sends it in to Masagayo. Bucket and a foul.
Just to not let them get that bucket. But you see Zy Walker with the steal as they fly ahead. And Jade Masagayo here. Michaeleski, I'm not going to let you make that. Nope. Right in.
Starters for the Buffs: Walker, Mackerlane, Masagayo, Dutoit, Betson. Right there in the middle, Jade Masagayo. She's from Fort Worth, Texas. TCU Horned Frogs are from Fort Worth, Texas. Jade's going to go right to the rim and score. Dutoit, no worry, but this is a whole different level here on the size proposition. And Masagayo again doesn't mind. It goes over the 6'7" Silva for a bucket. Miles has 18 points. Marta Suarez has 18 points. Big days again for them. Masagayo gets it in, and she'll shoot one. The and ones are a flying, and Marta Suarez, 4 fouls.
I was just saying, she's picked these up quick. Jade Masagayo going right to her again. Has the edge, has the opportunity. I know she had her beat.
Inbounding on Dutoit. Gets it to Masagayo, who's going to drive against Basham. Up and in, and she's fouled. The clock does not run out, but the and one could give the Buffs the lead. Probably a little time going back on the clock today for the lead.
Again, here's that look. Donovan stays with Hunter. Basham trying to play straight up, but just cannot.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Also on Big 12 Studios. Want to remind you that Big 12 Championship Gymnastics returns to the Maverick Center in West Valley City, Utah. Tickets for the 2026 Big 12 Gymnastics Championship, which is presented by Allstate, are now on sale. The action starts on Saturday, March 21st, featuring 2 thrilling sessions for the right to claim the Big 12 champion title. Don't miss your chance to witness championship moments. Get your tickets now at maverickcenter.com and be part of Big 12 Gymnastics in West Valley City, Utah, which is how far from Salt Lake? If you know, you know.
I'm assuming not far.
You've been out there.
Not to West Valley, Utah.
I thought you would know.
West Valley City. It's probably a suburb of Salt Lake. Yeah, northwest of Salt Lake City. There you go.
18 minutes. Yeah, it's a suburb.
I was in Park City, Utah. It was literally a year ago. Exactly a year ago.
There's that get off my lawn energy.
Yeah, I mean, what?
He feels attacked.
Do I look like Google to you?
I apologize.
Do I look like Google to you?
That's an appropriate response when somebody asks you a question.
A question that's very easily Googleable.
Very defensive. That's the way to go. All right, we were talking about some of these Big 12 teams, and
you got a birthday next week, by the way.
I do.
Yeah, I won't be here for it, but you got a birthday next week.
Yeah, thanks. Be here all by my lonesome, me and Taman. We're gonna have the time of our lives.
Well, let me just tell you that it was on purpose.
Taman's baking me a cake.
Seriously?
No.
Taman, are you a baker?
In my teenage years, I haven't done it in a while.
He's got a real sweet tooth.
Yeah, I like sweets.
Did you ever eat all that fudge that I brought into the studio for Christmas?
I did.
My mom keeps asking me, how did Taman like the fudge?
Tell your mom.
And I keep thinking, I need to get an update.
No, it was very good. I love fudge. And Cameron liked
it. Christmas?
From Christmas. It's a couple months ago.
Cameron liked it too, by the way.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, she'll be ecstatic to hear that.
Oh.
Yeah, so what about the birthday? You won't be here?
No.
Cool. You guys really lean into birthdays. You're a big birthday guy.
No.
It seems like there's always a big deal when somebody has a birthday on this show.
Does it?
To a certain degree, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I mean, I wasn't on the show for my birthday this past year.
Is that right?
Well, it was also week 0, if you remember.
Oh, yeah.
So
you were on a cruise.
I was on a cruise, but it was also a Saturday. So it works out well.
Yeah. No, I think mine's on a Thursday.
It is.
Thanks.
It's this Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's this Thursday.
Yeah.
All right, so...
So you're going to be 41?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big 4-1. It's a big deal. It's huge. All right, so you said, last segment, you mentioned TCU, and if they get in the NCAA tournament, a lot of national college basketball writers are starting to kind of pay attention to this TCU team. They look at hidden Cinderellas.
Or Cilarandas.
Or personal favorite.
It's Cinderella and Dave Aranda.
Yeah.
A Cilaranda.
That's it.
Does the slipper fit, Dave Aranda?
This is a big year for Dave. Could be a Cinderella story.
Could be a Cilarella. Cilaranda.
Cinderanda.
Cinderanda.
It's going to be huge.
Yeah.
Anyways, Ryan Hammer, who tweets out great stuff, the hidden Cinderella, volatile teams that have strong wins, but also some bad losses holding back their resume and their seed. And Wisconsin is noted. Auburn is noted. North Carolina is noted. Kentucky, Cal. But then TCU. And TCU is like towards the top, like the second team after Wisconsin, because they've got losses to a Notre Dame team who's 2-11 in the ACC. They have a loss to Utah and a loss to New Orleans in the season opener, but they've also beaten Iowa State in Florida and lost to Michigan by 4. So that's one team that I highlight. Also, it's KenPom top 21 season. 96% of your national champions since 2001 have been top 21 in KenPom offense and defense entering the tournament. There are 4 Big 12 teams that meet that criteria: Houston, Arizona, Iowa State, and Texas Tech meet that criteria of the 12 teams that currently hit that mark.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I think there's from a Cinderella standpoint, kind of putting the top 20 piece to the side for a second. It almost feels like in modern college basketball, the Cinderella is more of the NC State, that they had that run a few years ago.
Yep.
Where it's sort of a surprise Power 5, because the Big East is a Power 5 in basketball, but not in football. Where it's like a lower seeded Power 5 team. In the case of NC State, where they made the national championship game, they were a 10 seed. And so I think some of the things you want to look for that are maybe indicators of potential, Cinderella teams, and especially, look, this year may be a year where there's some of these, 8, 9, 10 Power 5 teams that make deep runs based on experienced backcourts going up against highly ranked teams that are featuring freshmen and experience, because a lot of these teams are featuring high-level freshmen, and that's not always sustainable in the tournament. And so, there's a few things to look at, and we've talked a little bit about them already with TCU. So, number one, top 40 type defense, right? So you've got to be a top-level defensive team. You got to be elite at either offense or defense, and traditionally those are going to be defensive teams. You also can't be a team that turns the ball over a ton. You've got to be a team that really takes care of the basketball. So if you're good on defense and you don't turn the ball over, those are huge. Also, rebounding, right? And that's one of the big indicators of success of the Big 12, like rebounding, winning on the glass. So just think of best ways to shorten basketball games if you're a 8, 9, 10, 11 seed going up against 1 or 2 seeds early in the tournament to get to the second, or to get to the second weekend. You've got to do all of the little things right. You have to win in the margins. And then, obviously you've got to have experienced upperclassmen playing heavy minutes, right? So those are things that have probably always been true, experienced players. And then I think one of the things you have to look for is injuries. How healthy are you? And are you getting healthy, or are you the opposite end of that? TCU to me is a team that has some staying power because they check a lot of these boxes. They have experienced players. They're experienced backcourts. They do not turn the ball over. Their turnover percentage is one of the lowest in the country. TCU is top 20. They're at 21.1% turnover percentage, which is top 20 nationally, according to Ken Palm. 21% of their possessions end in turnovers, which is a much lower number. And then 23rd in Ken Palm defense. So they don't turn the ball over. I think they're they have recorded fewer than 10 turnovers in multiple games this season, including 5 of their last 8 contests.
Yep.
So ball security travels, defense travels, experienced backcourt. Now, offensively, do you have the Ken Palm numbers in front of you? Where are they offense? That's one of the things where it's they've got to be able to hit more shots, but you're not there's a reason you're an 8, 9, 10, or 11 seed, right? You're not going to check every one of these boxes. So I think out of the Big 12, that they're probably at the top of the food chain in terms of these bubble teams that could actually make a run if they make it. Oklahoma State's a team that is not good enough defensively.
Yep.
Oklahoma State, West Virginia is a team that I don't know if they're good enough offensively, and they turn the ball over a little bit too much. So I think when we look kind of down the line at some of these other teams, Baylor's not good enough defensively. Some of these bubble teams, TCU's for me the one team that's they check a lot of these boxes, but they got to get there. They got to get to the dance.
To answer your question, they are 113th in offensive efficiency rating.
There you go.
With
so they're
that said,
top 25 in defense. They're top 20 in turnover percentage, but they are not good at scoring consistently.
NC State wasn't an explosive offensive team during their run. And even 3 years ago when you had Florida Atlantic and San Diego State in the Final Four, those were 2 teams that were built defensively and got hot in the tournament in terms of scoring the basketball. Jaden Pierre has 43s on the year and is shooting almost 40% from downtown. Does he get hot? Their international player, LT, shoots 41% from downtown. Caden Edwards is a 44% three-point shooter. So with David Punch and Micah Robinson, there's been a massive uptick in his game as of late.
So real quick, sorry to cut you off there, but basically just to wrap a bow around this, older backcourts, low turnovers, top 50 defense, that'd be the most common 10, 11 seed to the Sweet 16 recipe. Mm-hmm. In order to do that, you got to beat a 2 seed. In order to get to the second weekend, you got to beat a 2 seed. If you're at 8, 9, you got to beat a 1 seed.
See, I'd almost rather be an 11.
Yeah, totally agree.
Be an 11 seed, get in a play-in game, and work your way through that way, like NC State did as an 11 seed when they made the Final Four, which was 2 years ago. By the way, NC State was the only Cinderella team that year in the tournament. It was NC State, and then Clemson was a 6 seed that made the Sweet 16. Last year's tournament, the lowest seed to make a Sweet 16 was a 6 seed, and it was BYU. There have not been Cinderellas.
Interesting. And I'm just taking a look at some of the 2 seeds right now. According to Joe Lenardi, Purdue, Houston, Iowa State, Illinois. I think kind of the unfortunate piece for TCU. Like, if you're TCU, you're looking for a 1 or a 2 seed that you might be paired with that is one of those high-seeded teams with freshmen. Right? Like, that's where your draw matters a ton in this. I just don't see that with the current 2 seeds, but obviously a lot of things can change, in terms of this. So we'll see.
If I was highlighting some non-Big 12 teams that are higher seeds that I would like to see a Big 12 team playing, of the 2s you just mentioned, I would say Illinois would be number 1 because they've been extremely volatile every year in the tournament.
And they're bad defensively. They're in the hundreds in the Ken Palm defensive efficiency number. Really good offense, bad defense. A TCU-Illinois matchup would be very interesting.
And I don't hate Purdue. I mean, Purdue...
Also a very bad defensive team. Not as bad as Illinois, but they're built on offense for sure.
Purdue is a byproduct of where they were ranked in the preseason. They got beat by 33 at home in the non-conference by a Big 12 school, Iowa State. And then they had a 3-game slide in January. They lost to UCLA, Illinois, and Indiana back-to-back-to-back. And since then, they've won 3 in a row.
Well, but even their Nebraska win, which is a big win, like, they were up, I think, 22 at one point in that game and nearly blew it. And, like, there were some crazy things that happened at the end of the game. Like, Nebraska, I think, was down – what was I don't know if you have the final score in front of you, but Nebraska was down 1 or 2 at the end. And basically their point guard slipped on the inbound in the last 5 seconds, turning the ball over, which basically ended the game. It was a crazy ending. And, like, even before that, there were some weird things that happened. So they just barely escaped after having a huge lead against Nebraska. Purdue's bad defensively. And, again, like, you can make the second weekend of the NCAA tournament not being a great defensive team, but I think if you're going up against the TCU team that has a great defense or really good defense and doesn't turn the ball over, that makes the margin for error that much slimmer for those teams.
Nebraska. Purdue won that game by 3, by the way, 80-77.
So they were up 1, and on the inbound, Nebraska's point guard slipped and fell, and then Purdue inbounds and basically got fouled to shoot 2 free throws to win by 3.
So the Ken Palm championship criteria, there are 12 teams that currently meet the mark. 96%, so all but one, I believe. The only one that didn't hit this mark was UConn when they had one of their runs a few years ago.
Shabazz Napier, yep.
96% of champs have been top 21 in offense and defense since 2001.
But remember, that's not when the season starts.
That's when the season ends.
It's not when the NCAA tournament starts, right? It's at the end of the year. It's not top 21 in both offensive and defensive efficiency at the end of the year. It's at the end of the regular season. It's every national champion other than UConn has been top 21 in both of those, but they might not be there when the tournament starts.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
They may be 25.
I was trying to find a
in one or 26 in one, and then they rise as they continue to win in the tournament.
I was trying to find, because you're right, all these stats.
So it's sort of a skewed stat in that way.
But one was in the top 25 in both efficiency.
But
That's
remember,
these 12 teams as we're 5 weeks out.
Because I remember in years past where you're like looking to pick your national champion and you're looking for one of those teams, and it's like, but they might not necessarily be there when the tournament starts. That's the rub.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, the rub right now would be Michigan, Arizona, Houston, Duke, Illinois, Florida, Purdue, Iowa State, Louisville, who's got a big game this weekend against Baylor, UConn, Texas Tech, and Vanderbilt.
I would still bet on Michigan, Arizona, or Houston to win the national championship.
Those 3 or against the field, I'm taking those 3.
Yeah, agreed.
To win the whole thing.
Yeah.
Now, I could see a Texas Tech or an Iowa State or even a Kansas making a deep run and being a Final Four team. How crazy would it be to see 3 Big 12 teams in the Final Four?
I mean, obviously we'll have to see when the bracket. It feels kind of impossible given where all of the Big 12 teams are constituted. It feels like you need at least 2 1 seeds, but we'll have to see.
All right, we'll talk with Chancellor Johnson, the Big 12 analyst and content creator, coming up next. This is Big 12 Today, brought to you, the Full-Time Fan, by Modelo, exclusively on TuneIn, and you're watching us on Big 12 Studios. Check out the top plays from Big 12 men's basketball starting 5.
It's been the 1 weak area for Gak. He's just has a hard time finishing around the basket.
Speaking of finishing at the rim, Xavier Edmonds. Closing stages of the first half. Edmonds still a long way from the basket. Trying to back his way in, turns the corner and... Oh, what a follow there from Punch. Couldn't put it back up and in. Sped inside and hello, Xavier Edmonds. Pierre assist. How did he thread this near?
Well, he kind of got hit from behind. He probably got fouled. And
the offense that has been up and down this season, big part of their story so far.
Good looking stroke. That's Xavier Edmonds, who is in the midst of his best stretch of basketball in his career. Marcus Johnson, who had 3 total points on the season entering this one, has hit 4 threes in a half. He's got a dozen. Boy, a badly needed basket by Edmonds.
Yeah, you talk about those 4 turnovers. They also have not gotten good looks here of late. And now you see TCU, getting the ball inside. That's their strength. That was a big concern for Kansas State coming in. And now if you're TCU, can you get the ball inside to your bigs?
Edmonds exploding to the rack. Clinging to a 1-point lead. Brock Harding, 4th in the Big 12 in assists with an exquisite dime to Edmonds.
Big 12 Today here on Big 12 Radio, brought to you, the full-time fan, by our friends at Modelo, Ari and James, and talking with Chancellor Johnson, Big 12 analyst and content creator, also watching us on Big 12 Studios. Hey, Chancellor.
What's going on, fellas? How you guys doing?
Man, we're good. Got a question for you. If you were to take, for your pick to win the national championship, you get Arizona and Houston versus the field. Are you taking Arizona or Houston or the field?
I like that question. You know what? I'm going to go Arizona or Houston. And that's not just me being, a Big 12 guy. That's just how much confidence I have, honestly, more so in Arizona. And Houston, I certainly believe, can win a national championship as well, especially with the level of basketball they're playing right now. But between those two teams, I really like what they bring as far as their balance. They can do it in different ways as well. I like the experience from both teams. You look at Houston with Miles Uzan, Emmanuel Sharp, JoJo Tugler, and then the talent that they have surrounding them as far as Kristen Knack Jr. and Kingston Flemings, and then Arizona. I think obviously they lost on the road in an extremely tough environment like Kansas, but look, they got to the best start in program history for a reason, because of their talent, because of their experience, and because of their overall depth. I like those two. I don't know what the odds are on that. I have to go check that. But I like Houston and Arizona over the rest of the field as of today.
Yeah, and we were talking about this, and we added Michigan too. But honestly, James, if you took out Michigan, I'd probably agree with Chancellor as well.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd take Houston or Arizona over the field
Same.
as well. Chancellor, one of the things we talked about a little bit with Houston this week is, obviously Kingston Flemings has had a tremendous year. He's been really good. But it's had an impact on Milos Uzan. And, here's a guy that was thinking about going to the NBA after a great run last year. Some of his scoring and numbers are static from last year, but the percentages are way down. His 3-point field goal percentage and his field goal percentage are way down. What do you make of that? And, can this team still win a title? Like, I'm just curious kind of, it's weird. It feels like Houston hasn't even played that good yet. Like they're 10-1. It's like they're not even that good.
No. Listen, that is extremely fair, and I'm glad you brought this up, because I've been kind of talking about this for like months now. And for some Houston fans, they didn't necessarily want to hear it. But to answer your question about like how far can this team go, if Miles Uzan doesn't play to the level that he's that we've seen before. Yeah. I don't know if they can win a national championship without him playing to the level of his talent, because last year he was a late bloomer as well. Yeah. He came into the program, and admittedly, it was an adjustment process, going from Oklahoma to Houston and playing under Kelvin Sampson, right? The number of responsibilities that he had on him as far as defensively, trying to make things work with LJ Cryer at the time. And then the second half of the season hit. They got to conference play, and then his numbers went up. And then his stock in the NBA draft went up. And up until the tournament, he was playing some of his best basketball. And so he tested the waters. And for me, I was thinking about, well, if he follows this trend, as we've seen with a number of Houston Cougars over the past couple of years, Marcus Sasser 2 years ago, then Jamal Shedd, testing the waters and coming back. Marcus Sasser became an All-American. He was the Big 12 Player of the Year. So did Jamal Shedd, who ended up having that incredible season, was the Big 12 Player of the Year as well. I was thinking, okay, well, if Miles Uzan follows suit, second year under Kelvin Sampson, man, like the sky's the limit for this Houston Cougars team. And then you got out of the gate slow. And so we saw the emergence of Kingston Flemings, and to your point, Houston was winning, so everything was fine. But there were moments where you felt like, man, they could have really used Miles Uzan. And then we actually saw a flash of that in their conference opener on the road versus Cincinnati, where Houston was actually trailing the Bearcats. That was Jizzle James' first game back, I believe, at that time. And they were on the road, and they needed him to step up, and he did. And I was like, there it is. There's that Miles Uzan. Mm-hmm. And ever since then, he's just kind of just been out there. And I think for a guy of his talent who can do a little bit of everything, as far as he can shoot the ball, as we've seen previously at a high level off catch and shoot, can play out Kingston Flemings, can get to the rack and create for others, I just haven't really seen that as much. And talking to Kelvin Sampson about it, they honestly have not been concerned, because they've always felt like that's just been the arc of his career, even while he was at Oklahoma, that he gets better as the season goes along. And it's just, as you mentioned, like the numbers are okay, but the actual percentages aren't as much. And so as they get into this tough stretch here, I'm not talking about Kansas State when they play them at home this Saturday, when they have to go on the road to Ames and take on an Iowa State team, when they have to play Arizona next week at home. without Miles Uzan, that's not going to cut it. And so they need him to be at his best level. And so Chris Nack Jr., he's taking a step in his game. JoJo Tugler is actually giving Houston more on the offensive end. Kingston Fleming has tapered off a little bit over the past couple of games, but I have no concerns about him. Emmanuel Sharp, even with Kingston Fleming's Kingston Fleming's not having his best game last time, he had over 20 points, 8 threes, broke the program record for most threes. Where's Miles Uzan? They need more from him in order for them to get to where they want to go, and that's back to Indianapolis.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even with his struggles shooting the basketball, Kelvin Sampson told us the same thing. Like, he hasn't talked to him about that at all. He knows that'll come eventually. Fleming's has been phenomenal. Evan Mia's got him as at evanmia.com as the 4th best rated point guard in the country. But Emmanuel Sharp, I mean, you noted right there, he hit a career-high 8 threes earlier this week against Utah. It's almost like he's almost been forgotten about with the emergence of these freshmen.
Very fair. And if you ask me, I think he's playing at a Big 12 first-team level, and I mean that. And the thing about Emmanuel Sharp, too, is he is one of the best perimeter defenders, and not just in the conference, but in the country as well. He should make a Big 12 defensive team because of the value he brings on that end. But, when it comes to Emmanuel Sharp, with him just breaking Marcus Sasser's record in as far as most threes in program history, I don't know when that record is going to be broken again, especially in this era of college hoops now. When you look at the transfer portal and NIL, Emmanuel Sharp is one of the better college basketball players we've seen over the past decade or so. The numbers say that, and the number his impact on the team has said that, because he's a guy who came in his freshman year, got slow minutes, right? And then his sophomore year, he just had the kind of traditional climb that, frankly, we don't see anymore. And it's important to note because he stayed at Houston all 4 years. And he's embraced the grind. He's embraced learning from the Marcus Sassers and the Jamal Sheds, and to now, taking ownership of this team and being the guy and the glue. And now this year, the heart and soul of this Houston Cougars team. Obviously, Kingston Flemings is the guy as far as the talent. Last year was Juwan Roberts, is kind of the heart and soul. This year, Emmanuel Sharp has embraced that. And you can only do that by being in this program and understanding what it takes to win, understanding what it means to play under Kelvin Sampson and what he demands out of you. And on one funny note regarding Emmanuel Sharp, it's funny because Kelvin Sampson admits he has a hard time finding things to pick on with Emmanuel Sharp. So sometimes he told us he has to make things up because he knows that Emmanuel Sharp, he can trust him. He's so reliable, and that's just the impact and the value that he brings to this Houston Cougars team night in and night out.
A really under-the-radar big game this weekend is TCU Oklahoma State. TCU has 4 quad 1 wins, but they also have a quad 2, quad 3, and even a quad 4 loss. So they're very much a bubble team. They can get another quad 1 win with the win at Oklahoma State. But they're a really intriguing team, and we were just talking about kind of maybe as a bubble team in a lower seed, like they've got some of the recipe that you need to be a Cinderella, because they have an experienced backcourt. They don't throw the ball over a ton, and they play great defense. What do you make of TCU?
Yeah, TCU, a massive win for them to get at home over Iowa State, and they were searching for their signature win. And as you mentioned it, they've played in some tough games this year. They were one of the first teams to really give Michigan a run earlier on in that non-conference schedule. If you remember, that's when Michigan was walking through smacking teams by 30-plus points. Yeah. And TCU, they had an opportunity, and they just weren't able to close the deal. And since then, the non-conference schedule was okay. They were able to kind of do enough to float around. Their Big 12 conference schedule has been kind of lackluster up until this moment of getting the win over Iowa State, and they had to really grind that one out. And obviously, I think we all think a lot of the Cyclones team, a team that can go far in the NCAA tournament, and so they kind of tricked off that game where TCU give the Horned Frogs credit. They went on a 12-0 run to end that game, and so they are a dangerous team because as I mentioned, Iowa State is a team not just was playing for a Big 12 conference title. They're a team that they believe can get to a national championship. So a massive win for them. But if TCU getting that win, they're gonna have to stack some wins together. And it's not just TCU. You look at UCF, who's now faltered after back-to-back losses. Obviously going on the road, taking on Houston, that's a tough one to win, right? Coming off of that massive win against Texas Tech, and then they got blown out in the next game by Cincinnati. And so now they come back home and they have to play West Virginia, a team that they have to maybe win these next 3 games versus West Virginia. UCF's going to see TCU, the team that we just mentioned there, and then Utah. They need to kind of stack some wins as well. So, we talk about all the top teams, the elite teams that can get to the Final Four in the Big 12, but, UCF, TCU, and even, maybe West Virginia, if they can stack some wins together, and Oklahoma State as well, that, are trying to make, an NCAA tournament berth.
Yeah, West Virginia and UCF are both 6-5 in Big 12 play. So the winner of that game jumps the other in terms of the league standings. The other game that could be really impactful for the Big 12 is at Dickies Arena in Fort Worth between Baylor and Louisville, because Louisville's a top 25 team. They're top 21 in offensive and defensive rating, according to KenPom. And Baylor, somehow, someway, even with a 13-11 record, find themselves in the top 50 or around 50 in the net rankings. So what type of an impact could that game have just on the league overall and the perception?
Yeah, Baylor, they need this one, man, bad, especially after a tough loss they had at home to BYU, and I was there for that game. Got a chance to see AJ DeMonsa in person, simply phenomenal. And then Tunde Yesufu, right? He had 37 points. He went band for band with AJ DeMonsa, a future top pick in the NBA draft. And so they need to string some wins together. They have an opportunity with Louisville coming to Texas, right? It's not necessarily a home game for them, but, they will have some home cooking being in the Lone Star State. And so it's, a top 25 matchup with the Cardinals coming into town. You get one of the best point guards in the country as well, and Brown Jr., who's now putting together some nice games. He had 40 points was the last week or so, and so they need a win. If they have any hopes of getting to the NCAA tournament as well for the Baylor Bears and Scott Drew.
Yeah, so give me a kind of an Iowa State, Kansas, not the Houston, Arizona category, but maybe one of the other teams at the top of the conference that you think could make a deep run in the NCAA tournament.
Kansas, for sure.
With or without Darren Peterson?
We said, well, they need Darren Peterson, but I've been very impressed with Kansas and their ability to do it without him. And I think, it's been kind of talked about on the broadcast about without Darren Peterson, it's allowed their other players to really, come out on their own. You look at Melvin Council Jr. Right now, after the game, I wanted to kind of hold off on this, so I'll say it on your guys' show because I like you guys so much. But
nice.
You can make a case that Floyd Badunga is the Big 12 Player of the Year. He's played at that level. If you look at what he's been able to do defensively and the impact he's had on the boards, offensively as well. Melvin Council Jr. obviously having a great game. Bryson Tiller, the freshman, 18 points in that game. He was kind of not talked about as much in that win over Arizona. And so then you add Darren Peterson. If you're able to add him, in this long run, that's a big if right now, and I understand why people might say that, right? But when he's playing, they're certainly a team that can beat anybody in the country, as we saw. Obviously, it was a tough sledding for Arizona trying to do that on Big Monday at Allen Fieldhouse, but for them, knowing kind of short notice that we're not going to have our best player, the best player in the country when he plays on the floor. And for them to go out and get that win, a gritty win over, the Arizona Wildcats, that just shows you, the growth of this team overall. And so, yeah, if you add Darren Peterson, who has shown the ability that he's so good, he's just simply plug and play, right? His ability as far as, catch and shoot, on ball, off ball, everything that he brings, even defensively as well. That's why, I'm really interested to see that, if he's 100%, if, is kind of turns to the if man at this point, going on the road in Ames, I think that's a huge game. And something to note too with Iowa State, this is the stretch we'll really get to see, okay, what do we have in the Cyclones team? Because we talk about the Arizona stretch that they have. Houston's going to have a tough stretch as well, and so does Iowa State. These teams are starting to play each other now, so we'll get a real look at how great these teams are. But I think Arizona, they have the highest ceiling, I would say, out of all the teams, because when Darren Peterson is on the floor, they can simply beat anybody in the country.
Yep. Totally agree. Chancellor Johnson, Big 12 analyst and content creator, joins us each week here on Big 12 Today. Chancellor, we'll talk again soon.
Sounds good, man. Welcome to Houston. I'm excited to hear you on the call.
You said you're not going to be at that one, which, Chancellor,
See what had happened was, there's other games going on. I cover the league as a whole now. I can't just keep it in Houston.
Right.
That's crazy you called me out like that, though. Man, that's crazy. I was kidding.
I won't speculate on why you will be choosing not to attend that game, but we know that you're at all these different Big 12 stops, so love to see your travels as well.
Absolutely. James, are you bringing your brown paper bag? Are you bringing that to the game?
Chance, no. Kansas State is practicing really hard today and tomorrow. They have a very early shoot around, and they'll be dialed in, and it'll be right down the wire like all the other Big 12 games.
Absolutely. Just real quick to that note, can you think of any other team to worse to play than the Houston Cougars after your coach calls you out like that?
Seriously.
I don't think
at Houston. Yeah, I guess it wouldn't have mattered where, but yeah, you're totally right.
Yep, that's well said. All right, man. See you later, Chancellor Johnson, Big 12 analyst and content creator. Always a good time with Chancellor here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We'll wrap up the show coming up next. You're listening to us exclusively on TuneIn, watching on Big 12 Studios. Check out the top plays from the Big 12 women's basketball starting five.
Is that now the second three-pointer for Fauntleroy?
Perry forces one up, and it was blocked. Baylor leads the Big 12 with 7 blocks per game. And another one goes for Scott.
It says when the shot clock is winding down, ball in the hands of Crawford is where she likes to have it.
Now Baylor's heating up from 3. Scott has hit 2 in a row.
To make any adjustments, right down the court, finds a little gap and a pull-up J.
Step back for Scott, and she drains it again.
And a strong, solid move through a lot of defensive contact by Abraham.
Scott, nothing but net from long range.
Keeping the game simple. And then for Baylor on the other end, right now the game
against West Virginia on Sunday, Cincinnati trying to do the same after a loss against Houston on Sunday. Scott lets it fly.
So Talia Scott, 19 points, 5 for 11 from the three-point. We've seen Cincinnati be able to shut down Baylor defensively.
Scott right to the rim.
Baylor head coach Nikki Collins said we cannot give up offensive rebounds. That's going to be our Achilles heel when it comes to the Sun Devils team. That one was good for Talia Scott.
Finishing with her left hand, so hard to do.
Talia Scott going from deep, it's all net.
And then of course, Talia Scott, what she does best, knocking down three-pointers with a hand in her face.
Back from Arizona State, they've only made 3 threes in this game. Talia Scott going for one right now.
time here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Brought to you by Modelo on a Fanatic Friday. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. We are powered by Modelo. Our guest lineup today featured Chancellor Johnson, Big 12 analyst and content creator. We had Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark. He joined us in the second hour of the show. And way back in hour number one, we talked with Jeff Woody, former Iowa State running back. If you missed those interviews, we podcast on Spotify. Right here, tune in on demand and on Apple Podcasts in our Big 12 Game of the Week. Tomorrow is Kansas at Iowa State here on Big 12 Radio. Starts at 1 Eastern, noon Central Time. You can watch it on ABC or you can listen to it right here.
Jayhawks with Darren Peterson, I'm assuming, and Iowa State haven't lost at home, 13-0 at home. And they've been on a little bit of a slide. Right?
Lost last time out at TCU. So we'll see what Iowa State looks like tomorrow. All right, Trinidad Chambliss has been granted eligibility by a Mississippi state court judge for the 2026 season. So it's the state of Mississippi working against the NCAA. As of today, he is eligible to play in 2026. Remember, his case was unique because basically he was denied by the NCAA because there were just some things missing in terms of his documentation and his paperwork. Bottom line is he missed all of the 2022 season because of respiratory issues, which he contends should not have counted against his eligibility. The NCAA said, that's not, we need to see some more documentation, some more paperwork. But I always felt like he had the best case of all these guys to get an extra year because he has not played in 4 full seasons.
Yeah, he's been denied 4 times, and so he finally found a judge that's an Ole Miss grad that would grant him this injunction. And, I mean, it's just silly, to say the least, to have 25-year-old quarterbacks in their 6th year playing. He even got the new Ole Miss head football coach to sort of speak on his behalf. It's, we'll see if it holds up, I guess. Charles Bediako, it feels like nobody wins here. So Charles Bediako, that case, by the way, he's no longer eligible to play. So you think about his situation. So he's playing, not like I feel bad for him because you kind of reap what you sow, but like he was playing in the G League. He comes to Alabama. He's getting paid to play there. He gets an Alabama judge to rule in his favor. He's playing.
Who also happened to be a 6-figure booster.
Yeah.
Donor.
So he's getting booed, and all the coaches are talking about how bad this is. So now he's ruled ineligible. So he plays for how many games? And now he's ruled ineligible. So what's he going to do? What's he supposed to do? Is he staying in Tuscaloosa? Does he go somewhere else? He's basically viewed publicly as a pariah. I mean, nobody wins here. Nobody wins. And so we'll see with the Trinidad Chambliss thing. 4 judges have said, nope, you're not eligible. And then they found the right judge who's an Ole Miss grad. It's like, you're eligible. We got you. And so now they go into spring football. He's the quarterback. Will the NCAA appeal this? Will they try to get it to a change of venue to get a different judge who might rule in their favor? It is. Of all of the things that people want to complain about with college sports, I'd say this part is maybe the worst because you can certainly make the case there should be no eligibility rules. I don't want to make that case. Mm-hmm. It feels like for college sports to maintain some semblance of its college sportsdom, there needs to be eligibility rules. It cannot become a minor league in full, right? Like it's already going that direction. But I feel like the one differentiator that needs to stay in place is the eligibility piece. We just can't have a world in which college players can play forever. Mm-hmm. We can't.
Right.
I think for a million reasons. So, but that's at this point what these cases are deciding.
To me, the thing that grinds my gears the most is the inconsistency. Like Ashton Hawkins, the receiver at Baylor. Remember, he was ineligible about this time last year, and he had just missed the NFL draft, and he was fighting it to come back and play at Baylor, and he won. He caught 53 passes this past season for the Baylor Bears. He had already played 4 full seasons. He played 11 games at Texas State his freshman year, and then 9, and then 13. Year 4 at Baylor, he played in 13, and he got a 5th year and played 12 games. The guy played in 60 career football games over the course of 5 seasons. And then Trinidad Chambliss has only played 3 years on the field. He played in 2 games in 2022 that they're trying to say, well, he played that year. He played less than the 4 minimum redshirt threshold, and he did it at a Division II school. Then he played at Ferris State 8 games. Then he played in 15 games. And this past year he played in 15 at Ole Miss. He's only had 3 seasons of football, but to your point, he turns 24 in August, older player. So comparing those 2 cases side by side, it makes 0 sense to me.
Yeah, and again, at some point, they're going to have to collectively bargain. I know that it's, they'll pry it from their dead, cold hands, but that's the only way to do it. And I think eligibility is going to be a huge part to the collective bargaining, because, again, at this time, the Supreme Court ruled that the NCAA is a monopoly. They cannot create rules that govern all of college sports because they're a monopoly. So they keep losing in court based on under that guideline. And, so any rule they try to enact, basically they could argue against antitrust protection. And the only way they're going to get it in the same way that pro sports has it is by collectively bargaining between the players, and administration. And it's going to be clunky. It won't be great for the players, but they need it. And especially when it comes to eligibility. What are eligibility standards? What should eligibility standards be? Because right now that's tenuous at best. Precarious is another word for it. Because it's precarious for the players, it's precarious for the NCAA, it's precarious for the schools. And it's really interesting how much this is playing out in the SEC. Right? The Bediako case is an SEC team. Old Trinidad Chambliss is an SEC team, right? We're not really seeing these as much outside of the SEC. I don't know why. I'm not saying that anything specific, but it's just interesting, right?
Saying something without saying something.
I'm not even sure what I'm saying. It's just interesting, right?
What is he saying?
All of these profile cases are with the Southeastern Conference for whatever
right.
reason.
Mm-hmm.
May not be nothing. May just be a coincidence.
Speaking of coincidences, man, I love the headlines that come from the Olympics. My personal favorite is a man that was arrested in Italy after 16 years on the run. So he was arrested. There was a warrant for his arrest 16 years ago in Italy. He's from Slovakia. Well, he returned to watch the Winter Olympics. He could not miss Slovakia's opening hockey game. He went back to Italy and got arrested within hours.
What do you think he thought? It's been long enough. I'm sure they've forgotten about it. No. You realize when you enter a new country with your passport, there's a database. They probably were like, this guy's the dumbest criminal ever.
He was on the Italian police most wanted list.
So it wasn't even a petty crime.
Apparently not.
They were just waiting for him to come back. Come on back to us.
And he says,
Come
you
on
know
back.
what? I'm ready. I'm ready to risk it all because we've got the puck drops at 8 against Finland, and I'm going to be there.
Look, it's a great year for Slovakia hockey, so I guess you had to be there. There's been some interesting storylines already at the Olympics. Did you hear about the American ice dancing team?
Ice dancing?
Yeah, ice dancing. Come on. What are you not? You're not on the up and up? Ice dancing is basically couple skating.
Okay.
And it is it's one of those where when you see the pair that are participating in ice dancing, you're like, are they married? Because if they're not, or if they're dating other people, yeah, they're definitely hooking up. There's just no way they do that much training together and that much.
Yeah. It's why Dancing with the Stars ends in so many divorces.
Yeah. And that's Dancing with the Stars. Think about how much training goes into the Olympics and specific routines. So the American couple is actually a married couple. It's Madison Chalk and Evan Bates, I think, is their name. Not I know a lot about ice dancing. But they were the favorites in the event. And they've won multiple championships and have won medals before. Basically, they ended up with the silver medal. And it was the French team that won with a lot of controversy surrounding them and the pairing of those two. That I won't bore you with the details.
But the judging is very subjective over the years.
Extremely. And so basically there was a French judge that awarded them more points than any other judge that helped to give them the gold medal. And I'll say this. If you're Madison Chalk and you're Evan Bates, it doesn't help that you're complaining about it. Like, I feel like you're like, just stop complaining about it. You know, like, let other people do it for you. Be happy you got a medal. Be excited about it. But don't, like, now they're going on TV doing interviews like, this is horrible. We can't believe we lost. Like, no, you're not making yourself any more, like, sympathetic whatsoever.
It's controversial because there's, like, some very clear footage and evidence that the French team had some visible technical issues, right?
Yes. No, yeah, for sure. Like, they definitely should have won gold. But let other people say that.
Yeah.
Don't be the ones, like, crying on camera that you should have won. It's just, it looks bad. Looks like you're French. It's a very French thing to do,
Oh, man.
okay?
If I had a nickel.
It's a very French thing to do.
If I had a nickel for every time
Bonjour,
I
everybody.
on camera. All right, as we wrap here real quick, I had a shocking discovery yesterday that I think you'll enjoy. So I told you about my lawn service, how I don't get invoices. I don't even know how much I'm paying the guy to do our lawn. He hit me up yesterday.
Yeah. How much?
I haven't paid in a hot minute. It kind of got swept under the table.
Suddenly you owe him, like,
seen
thousands of dollars.
Literally. Quite literally, Ari.
You feel like if you're in that position, you maybe want to invoice a little bit more often, just so that it's not, like, stunning when you get that bill, and
It
you're
was
like,
quite stunning.
and then you're gonna be like, well, I'm not gonna pay that, but they've already done the work. Yeah, good luck with that.
I'm paying. Apparently,
What's the total amount? Come on.
I'm paying rates to lay sod at AT&T Stadium.
$2,000.
$2,100.
Holy mother of God!
$2,100. It's not a gambling debt. It's a lawn debt.
At this point, you might as well go buy a lawnmower, James.
I made it and just stiff the guy. Come on, that wouldn't be right.
No, I'm not gonna tell you to stiff the guy. Of course not.
No, they do a great job. I've already made one payment. We'll get them caught up. We'll get caught up. It was
You're on a payment plan with your lawn service?
It was a shocker. All right, Margarito, it's coming for you. Okay, Zell's on the way. It'll happen. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. We're back next week, 8A to 11A Eastern Time, each and every day, right here on the channel on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios. This is the Big 12 Conference. We are brought to you by Modelo, and we'll talk to you Monday. Have a fantastic weekend. We are out of here.
Peace.